All right. good.
Live on Facebook and live on Zoom.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'll now convene and call to order the public hearing of the Cohasset School Committee on Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. This public hearing is held in the Learning Commons at the Cohasset Middle High School, and the purpose is to invite public comment as the law requires on the school committee's deliberation on school choice. The deliberations will not occur tonight. They will occur at a subsequent meeting, but the hearing is tonight. So before we start, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Carr.
Here.
Ms. St. Ange.
Here, present.
Mr. McCall. And Mr. Donald, present. We have a quorum of 4 of our school committee members. And so I will now open the floor to any public comment on the matter of school choice. As an intro matter, this school choice is actually, you know what, Dr. Sullivan, do you want to give a quick overview and just make sure people who want to comment can?
Yes, it's called Interdistrict School Choice Program, and it has been around since 1991. And school choice allows families to enroll their child in a school district other than the district in which they live. We have not, and to my knowledge, ever opted to be a school choice district, which would mean that we were taking in students. And there'd be a tuition that would come with that. I believe it's $5,000 per student. And it's a calculation that's created with circuit breaker. I think that's what last year's tuition was. And, you know, it's the committee does have a couple of things in front of them, a couple of documents in front of them. You have the law, actually, for school choice that kind of breaks it down. You also have a rundown of the districts who do opt into school choice and who don't. You'll note that there aren't many around here who do opt to do school choice, but there are some. And then you have a guide for families, and then I put a Q&A document in front of you tonight that you didn't have earlier, but that kind of goes into school choice a bit more. So basically, you know, if I'll give my thoughts on it is, for us, it's simply a space issue. And particularly at the middle and high school, where our classrooms are smaller, and at times our classrooms get very full, that we have, and our enrollment is, you know, it's moving a little bit up and down, but it's pretty much staying consistent across the district in an effort to try to keep our elementary classes small, knowing that we don't anticipate a lot of students from Cohasset necessarily going to other school choice districts, which they have the right to. We do anticipate we'll be taking in quite a few students, and there are some definite benefits to that, but I would not be recommending it because of the basically our resources, which would in turn for us it's space.
Great.
That's essentially where I stand on the matter.
So since this is the public hearing for this, before I open it up to any committee members, Ms. Collins or Dr. Sullivan, anyone public comment wise?
There are no questions right now.
Okay. Any comments, questions from committee members?
I have a question. Because every other year we've voted upon this during the hearing.
Every year. Oh, every year did you say every other year? I'm sorry.
Oh, I meant every other year, like not,
Oh,
like we haven't done it yet.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I
Not,
get you.
not like one, three, five.
Not every year.
In years past,
Yes.
we have
Because
voted,
the only reason I say
Okay.
is because by law, we're required to vote every year.
right, and you had said we weren't voting.
We're going to vote at our next meeting. The
Oh,
reason for that is this public hearing is only 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure we have an ample time for any discussion that we have.
Okay.
And this is giving the chance to the public to have their discussions, debate, and we can look at these materials. And if we have additional views and we want to deliberate, we can do that at the next committee.
Perfect, thank you for that clarification. Different timeline.
Well, given that we have a public hearing, I don't want to close it off in case someone comes in in the next 4 minutes. So we can awkwardly stare at each other. That's an option.
We can, I don't have a lot more to say
No, I think we're good.
about school choice.
I
I don't know if
think
there
we're
are any
good.
questions that the committee might have on school choice. I can try to.
Well, I have one more
dig into
clarifying
my-
question since we need to fill time. I'll happily do it. You said the money that would come with a child is $5,000, or that was last year.
That was last year's.
And what is the cost of having a child in our district, just so we can compare? Like, what would our
Well,
cost benefit analysis be?
Our per pupil expenditure is about 20,000.
20,000.
Yeah, but then that's a strange number, by the way,
Uh-huh.
because it incorporates elements such as how much the town pays in what's it, health insurance, thank you, yeah. So, and then the way transportation is factored in is also a bit odd. I did a kind of analysis of it because I had some questions, people had some questions, so I'm a little uneasy with that number. It's an accurate number, but that's what it is on the DESI website.
The marginal cost of a student is not necessarily $20,000, because you can, if you have a classroom with, 18 students, you had a 19th student, you don't have to hire a new teacher, a new equipment. But there is a certain point where if you add 20 students, you are looking at hiring new teachers and so on. So these are the things we'd have to think about if we.
I don't know that Cohasset is ever, I'm looking over at a former teacher in the audience here, that has ever been a school choice district.
Not that I can recollect.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
We're not since 1987.
There you go. Well, it only started in 1991. You
So
predate
truly
that.
not since 1980.
Well, we have another 90-ish seconds for any public comment, if there's anyone in the community who wants to add anything to the discourse. But absent any new information, we'll deliberate at our next meeting, but, we might expect more of the same. So if you do have a view, now is your time to be heard.
We're a little bit above state average in our per pupil in every schools.
Our per pupil.
So they give you like a state average, so like this. Dr. Southern said, we're at like 20,329 per student and state average is about 19,500.
There's some places just do it in certain grades. And not
Yes.
For
others.
school choice.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
based on enrollment.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like
Just
grading,
interesting, yeah.
I can look into that. I believe that anyone can go to a school choice district. I don't think the school district has to be part of the school choice program. But I can look into that too. I don't know about the tuition transfer in that regard.
Sounds like there's maybe some more information we'll bring to Farrah, but I think we've come to the conclusion of our time allotted for the public hearing.
Yes.
Unless there's any other comments, I entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Motion made by Vice Chair McClellan, seconded by Ms. St. Ange. All in favor? Aye. All right, the public hearing is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Now, like Groundhog Day, we will convene the regular school committee meeting. Dr. Sullivan, are we ready?
We are ready.
All right, so I will call to order the regular meeting of the Cohasset School Committee on this Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. Again, in the Learning Commons, we haven't moved from our public hearing at the Cohasset Middle and High School. This is streamed live on 143 TV. It's virtual through Zoom and Facebook. Facebook is watch and listen only. With that, I will start and do a roll call. Mr. Carr.
Present.
Ms. St. Ange.
Present.
Mr. McClellan.
Present.
And I, Mr. Dial, present. We have a quorum of the school committee, 4 members. Mr. Kearney is absent. He's traveling in the great state of New Jersey tonight. So with that, we'll move into our Pledge of Allegiance. Yep.
Pledge
I
allegiance.
pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have a lot of good stuff on our agenda that has been posted and will speak for itself. I will start and note that yesterday we had a publicly posted joint executive session with our select board. I wanted to extend our thanks to the select board for entertaining us with that meeting. It was a very productive meeting. And we look forward to stuff coming out of that and continued work with our friends at the select board. So thank you very much. I'll now move on to public comment. This is the item of the agenda. If you have something to offer to the school committee, but is not on the agenda, this is the time to speak up. If you do have something to say that is on the agenda, but you want to make sure you are recognized at the appropriate time, please mention it now, but don't go into the substance of your discussion. With that, do we have any public comments?
There are none right now.
Excellent.
I don't think there's any from the audience. I think our audience is for the
Any
presentation.
public comments? No. No. All right. So with that, we will close off public comment and we'll go to our invited guests. Dr. Sullivan, would you do the honor of the introductions?
Well, I certainly, I will. I'm going to actually pass off the honor of the introduction, but I just want to thank Dr. Blair Duncan, students, and we have Ed Savage, who is our department chair for science 6 through 12, does a fabulous job. And I'm going to let Ed do the honors of introducing our wonderful guests and collaboration.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Like a student, I'll read off my phone. Thank you. So for tonight's Spotlight on Learning, we're featuring the Marine Club or the Marine team. We're still working on the name. Ponds are generally accepted for that sort of thing. It's a student-initiated club. We need under the direction of Dr. Blair Duncan. I've been helping, as has Jack Buckley, more so from his experience at CSCR, who has the Center for Student Coastal Research. The marine science courses have worked, as well as CSCR has worked with the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, continues to collect and process data regarding the health of Cohasset's watershed system. They'll be presenting tomorrow night at the State of the Department at 7 o'clock. Be there. And they will continue their work in preparation for the statewide civics fair at Clark University in June, where they will be one of 20 districts represented out of the approximately 300 districts across the state. So it's an incredible opportunity for the students. They've done a lot of work. Mr. Buckley actually helped to procure this poster, which I think the students would, I don't know where the right spot to hold this is.
Well, actually, I can put it right up here
You actually have.
on the screen when it's time to do that. We do have one technical issue is that we're sort of stuck on that view that you saw. I usually can manipulate the camera, focus right in on you. I can't do that. But if we'll have the students and Dr. Duncan come on up to the front here, we should have no problem with that. Dr. Duncan, is it best for me to keep this on the screen as you present? Is that helpful?
It's up to you guys. What's
And feel free to pull up another
Yeah,
chair if
chairs,
you need
yeah.
one. I was guessing, I thought, I was only one off, it's not too bad. I also note that we have Mr. Buckley, I know the committee's met Mr. Buckley and his great work with CSCR in the back. I'm sure he's part of the presentation too, and feel free to pull up a chair. So, was it better, students, if I leave this up there for you?
With that up, the people in the audience don't see you. With it down, we'll see you.
They don't see you as much. So, I'll take it down just for now. But if you need me to put it back up there, I certainly will. So, welcome, and thank you all for the great work you're doing. I'm very excited for the presentation. So, take it away.
this club stems from the marine science program that we had, where we learned about ocean chemistry and general importance of ecosystems. And then we used what we learned from that to simulate the ecosystems of Cohasset Harbor with rocky intertidal aquariums. And to do this, we collected water and sand from local beaches, and then we collected organisms such as seaweed, minnows, crabs, and snails from the beaches too. And then we maintained those tanks in small groups and monitored levels such as pH, salinity, and oxygen for several weeks. And then after we released the animals to where we caught them. We also went on a 2-day field trip to CSCR, where we collected water samples and prepared them to test for bacteria. Then on the second day, we looked at the results of those tests and discussed the importance of the tests for the harbor. And then at the end of the course, we used the data from collected at CSCR during the summer to make a conditions report of the harbor, which is currently still under draft. Okay. And Martin.
Can we introduce all the students?
And please
Yeah,
introduce
introduce
yourselves.
I'm Francis Borio.
And maybe just say what grade you're in.
I'm Francis Borio and I'm a junior at CHS.
Emma Thornton, I'm a senior. Leah Scortrito, I'm a junior.
Jackson Backus, I'm a senior.
Elena Kane, I'm a junior.
Welcome.
All right. So after the course was closed, the students decided that they want to continue on researching the marine, the Cohasset watershed marine environment. So they formed this marine club. And one of the first things that we did is we went over to Lightkeepers for a conference on meaningful watershed educational experiences. And the real purpose of the conference was to hear student voices in what they wanted their educational experience to be, and just listen to how that they could potentially inform future research of the harbor and give that research to the Cohasset town to help inform future decisions. So it was really all about hearing the students and hearing what they had to say and hearing what they wanted to get out of their educational experience. And here's Caitlin.
Students may not be completely aware of this, but our actual vision for Cohasset Public Schools is to empower students to improve communities. So you're really living that by the work you do with CSCR, with Dr. Duncan. So thank you for that. So keep going anyway. I don't mean to
All right, well,
digress.
if you're, I know you just ran just out the door, but if you're ready, would you like to say what you wanted to say?
Yeah,
Can you introduce yourself too? Just
so I'm Caitlin Scott. I'm a junior here at Cohasset, and I don't know what's already been mentioned yet, but sorry,
Take your time.
I did a lot of running to get here. We did this really, really wonderful event. I think it was February 16th, where we as the students, the Marine Club, kind of went to this workshop to discuss how the MeWe grant was kind of going to be used and to work together as a team, which was very, very interesting. And it was a really great experience for, I think, us, especially students, to have our voices heard. We're also going to a civics fair in June, which is a competition. But we are working towards that. I know we have the poster draft and whatever.
Yep.
So that's very exciting, and it's definitely going to help us work together as a team and try and get our views out to the public and help with the community and connecting students to the community and have kind of that pathway.
that's nice. Anyone else?
Oh, yeah. So we were given some data from CSCR, just some like temperature data, oxygen and like oxygen concentration in the water, like the acidity. And what we got to do, we got to like analyze that. And I don't know, it's
Yeah, I can actually,
displayed on the poster.
I'll put it up here.
Oh, all right. But basically, yes, we got to analyze it, and we just learned that our harbor is like normal. Nothing to say wrong with it.
What kind of analysis did you do?
Like
What'd you look at?
like in marine science, like for this club, we looked at like how rainfall affected bacteria levels. And we learned that with increased rainfall, bacteria in the harbor would also increase. And then some of the other data on there is just like temperature versus depth in the top right corner there, like just normal stuff. Like it gets colder as it gets deeper. And then there's also how oxygen affects pH, I think. I'm not sure, but there's also a map in the center that shows where the highest acidity in the harbor is. And we learned that it's right where all the fresh water is coming out into the harbor. And that's normal because fresh water is more acidic than ocean water. And the blue and red graph in the middle there shows that just the acidity in the inner portion of the harbor is a bit lower, or I mean greater than the acidity in the outer harbor. But just kind of to summarize, it's normal. It's not any different than anywhere else in the South Shore. Yeah.
Excellent.
For the educational experience, I'm sure that like me and my peers are very grateful to have this opportunity in the marine biology course. Because throughout the whole thing, we've gone through a few different excursions from the beach all the way to the lightkeepers, which has greatly improved our knowledge and our teamwork throughout this, helping us like push our knowledge towards the harbor, towards the community to make us like all united when we use.
That's great. What was that?
So coming as a person who did not take the marine science class and instead heard that there was this club and was kind of like, oh yeah, the civics project, I should do that. I put a lot less in than I got out, but like slowly doing the Lightkeepers experience and learning about how this grant was going to get used and how the class was formed, I learned a lot, not just on marine science, but on like science classes as a whole, because I always saw them as like a take notes and learn this. And so it was really unique to learn about the marine science class's goal and that there's a purpose behind what we're doing. And it was really meaningful.
It's awesome. It's great.
So like Leah said, I also did not take Dr. Duncan's science courses. That was actually a regret. Sorry about that. But I did get to spend a lot of time in the harbor. I row, and I've been rowing for 6 years now. So I spent a lot of time on the harbor, and naturally my curiosity just kind of like got the better of me. And I learned about this club and I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to learn more about the harbor. So now I'm here.
It's amazing you live somewhere your whole life and not really.
Very hard to access the water on the East Coast.
Yeah. It's great.
Very brief plug here, but it just shows the need for inquiry-based learning, and that civics piece really is something we'd like to see in a lot of the elective courses, like environmental science and other courses that we offer here. The civics project that we're going to showcase in June, I think we're still working towards, and has actually taken it upon ourselves to do an independent study with Dr. Duncan on Dr. Duncan's leadership this quarter as a senior, so that's very impressive. But thank you so much for the time. If you have any questions about the process, next steps, you can do our best to answer those.
Wonderful. And I would absolutely agree with that. I know Dr. Scoggins would too. The inquiry-based nature of this is exactly what we want to push towards. And also, I will say, and I know this is near and dear to Mr. Buckley too, is using the coast, which is such a great resource for us for learning as much as possible, because you learn so much with that real authentic experience of being there and, you know, doing the analysis where it's actually going on. It's such a wonderful opportunity. So we're very thankful for that collaboration. And I wasn't able to get there, but I was able to tweet some of your pictures, which is nice because so I could see this happening, and very impressive. And I hope, and I'm gathering that this experience is going to help you as you move forward, you know, whether you go to college or whatever you decide to do, because of the real authentic nature of it. And I love the idea of getting voices together too, and listening to voices to improve the community. That's great. Great. So, turn it over to you.
Speaking of voices, any voices from the committee members? Mr. Carr?
So I'm fascinated by the ocean, but I also, beginning my career, worked at the Commerce Department, which houses NOAA. So I had, by the way, they have the best fish fry ever once a year. But it is really remarkable what you can learn from the ocean. So when you go on to do other things, I hope it might be a career that you think about. And you don't have to go far from Massachusetts. Some of the best research is done here. So if you ever end up in Woods Hole and see the Marine Biological Institute and Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, till recently, the largest nonprofit in the world ran their Marine and Aquatic Research Division. Battelle Memorial Institute was in Duxbury. So we do all this kind of really cool stuff. So I hope you think my daughter Cece is a senior. She's going to college next year. And so I hope this maybe leads to something that you might want to do. I'll share a story with you. I recently ended up at a Coast Guard station in the Florida Keys. And they took us on an outing and they took us to a place that saves sea turtles. And they were telling us about all these sea turtles and we're overlooking this big lagoon. And a few years ago during COVID, a bunch of baby sea turtles got stranded here in New England. And on the back of one of them was the name of the turtle, Zoe. And then below it, it said Minot. And everybody there could not pronounce Minot. And it turns out that 20 sea turtles were rescued in Cape Cod Bay and they were flown to a place where they are rehabbing and will be released back to the ocean in Marathon Key in the Florida Keys. So really interesting connection between New England and other places around the world. So it really is fascinating. I hope you think about it as a career as you move on.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Ms. St. Ange?
Thank you all for sharing your parts. I love hearing from you guys. Curious, obviously you're all different years in school. What is the future of the Marine Club to be officially named later? What does that look like? How does that carry on? Are you like actively recruiting? Does it stay mostly this group? What do you see for your future? For those of you who will be here.
So far, we're thinking about continuing the club and trying to get more people to join. We're just like waiting to see like how that goes since this is our first year actually having it. So we're like excited to see what happens.
And to add on to that, I know like specifically like my friend group, while a lot of them are into like STEM stuff, not all of them are super interested in the harbor. So I'm kind of pushing and prodding at them to join. But I think that a lot of students don't necessarily understand the opportunities that we have, especially living right on like in Cohasset with the access that we have to the water. So it's kind of something we have to reveal to them through projects like this.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Mr. McCall?
I'm interested to learn more about the aquariums that you guys created. So where were they? How big were they? And how did you guys keep the water moving through them? Could you explain a little bit more about them?
Yeah, they were tanks that were about this big and this tall, and we had them in Dr. Duncan's room. We were in small groups, about 3 or 4. And we just maintained our tanks. We had aquarium filters on them that moved the water and oxygenated it. And then to keep the temperature down, we were freezing water bottles and changing them out every class.
Wow, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Did any other like, because that might be an interesting way, like if you're able to do it in a place where other students can see it, might be an interesting way to gain some interest in what you're doing. Just because it's like such like a engaging sort of, like what the people love aquariums, right? And so I realize there's not like, you don't have like a piranha in there or anything like that, but like it's still interesting, right?
Some really good looking.
Exactly. So just, I don't know, just a thought, like it might be a way to engage people for a little bit more of a bit more of an exhibition. I understand you got to keep it from, it's got to be kept clean. You don't want people dropping things in there or anything like that, but I don't know, just a thought. Sounds pretty cool. So the seniors, are you guys, are any of you going to college next year? Are you guys like undeclared? Or are you thinking of like, are you guys going into like a science related discipline? Yes.
I'm actually going into marine biology.
You are? That's awesome. See, I love that.
Where are you going?
I haven't fully committed yet, but right now, Providence College.
Nice. That's awesome.
I went to Providence College. Yes.
You too could be on the school committee.
Yeah. I think I'm at the lowest rung of the alumni there. So you're starting. It's like the baseline is being on the school committee. So How about, you said you mentioned you were going to college as well?
Yeah, I don't know where yet, but I want to study aviation science.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you just go get all your pilot's licenses. And
Sure.
just ship off to an airline.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Well, that's exciting for you guys. Seems like certainly this is a great outlet for your science-related interests. And I loved hearing from you that, I think your name is Leah, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Leah, I loved hearing when you mentioned that it sort of opened your eyes to a world of science being a lot more than just, learning and taking notes in a classroom. Because we are always trying to promote project-based learning experiences for the school district. And this is a true project-based learning experience. This is as project-based learning as it gets. And you can see the benefits of it where, it has given at least our two seniors an outlet for their interests and also an outlet for other people that aren't graduating yet and going on to college maybe, but for you guys to refine some interest in science. Seems like you have a really, really, heightened interest in it or defined interest in it. So it's really interesting to hear from you and your perspective. Well, thank you guys for sharing this. And I'm really glad that you participated in this and that we had this offered to our students. Thank you so much, for bringing this to them, to our school district. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. McClellan. Oftentimes in these meetings, I'll just repeat what Mr. McClellan says, because we're both really into the experiential learning and inquiry-based learning and project-based learning. There's something about, and you guys mentioned it in your presentation. By the way, great job. This is always hard, especially when you come in, drop in from the sky at the last minute. It's
Out of
really
breath.
you're out of breath. Well done. It's the experiential learning. You actually learn how things, and you guys mentioned it, how things that you're learning in class really apply in the real world and how they can help out. So I'm glad you're able to have that experience and then bring it to a club. I totally admire the entrepreneurial aspect. Let's create a club. Let's keep this going. So great job to you all. I do have one question though, and Dr. Sullivan, I don't know if you can pull up the Cohasset Harbor thing.
Yeah, I will.
But I have one question on this.
It was
What's-
flashing for some reason.
Yeah, it was flashing. What's going on with Atlantica? Why does it have so much foam bacteria?
That is the question.
Yeah.
I'm looking to Mr. Buckley because that's an area that we began to investigate. I don't want to say we began because my group began to investigate it last year. I worked over the summer with the bacteria team. You had protocols for years prior. I'll let you speak to that a bit and I can jump in if needed. Give us the full history.
I could say, come to the State of the Harbor tomorrow night.
Okay. There we go. It's a nice
To
plug
learn
for the
that
State of the
answer
Harbor.
at 7:00 at Woken Commons, but it truly is a mystery. But
Yeah.
it dissipates as the current brings it along past the cove, past the lobster car, past the yacht club, as it gets pulled out to sea on the outgoing
Yeah.
tide. It does dissipate, but it is screaming,
Right there.
screaming with bacteria.
Well, we need the Marine Club to figure it out for us.
Yeah.
So you guys have a mission. So, well, thank you all very much. Thank you for making this a reality for our students. Thank you guys for your entrepreneurial efforts and we're looking to give back to the community. And for those of you who are seniors, best of luck next year. For those of you who aren't, we'll see you making a difference next year. So,
Thank you very much for your support and also for inviting us here so we can share your experience with you.
Thank you for that. We love having
the
you.
pleasure was ours. Thank you.
Great
And
job,
good luck
guys.
with the State of the Harbor. Thank you. Thank you for your continued collaboration with us.
Thank you. One quick shout out to the students who have been meeting Mondays and Fridays. And I don't know how many other days in between that, but Mondays and Fridays at Utility.
Yes.
So they've been dedicating all of their time
Great.
to that.
Yeah.
And Ed and Blair have been
Yep.
super in terms of collaborating.
I'm not
So
surprised. Thank you, Dr. Duncan, and thank you, Mr. Savage. Thanks, students.
Bye, everybody.
All right. So next agenda item is a informative one, schools and town meeting. This is something that Mr. Cars advised us to put on the agenda, and I agree it's very important because town meeting is where we really get to have our voices as citizens heard. And there are a couple items on the town meeting warrant this year that will directly impact our schools. One, and this is traditional, is our capital budget. And we're going to be talking about what was approved there. But it is important for people to come to the town meeting and to show their support for the capital budget and let the town know through your votes that you support your schools. The second one is a larger ask, and it's a $300 request, $300,000 request that would support the creation of free full-day kindergarten in Cohasset schools. This has been a mission of this school committee since I've been on it. And we have found through the diligence work of our Director of Finance and Operation, Ms. Owen, and Dr. Patrick Sullivan, that if we are able to fund this for 1 year at this amount, we're able to qualify for additional funding, and this becomes self-funding through state assistance. So we're very excited about this possibility, but this is something that we need to make sure we have turnout at the meeting to, again, show our support. And the other thing that I would mention is that the town as a whole is facing some significant needs for capital investment. And we will see one of those items on the town hall warrant, which is the renovation of the town hall. But behind that, there are a number of other items that will be coming, many of which will be relating to the schools. So to the extent that you go and think about how the town money, the limited resource that we have, can be spent to further our schools and better our town, it's important to go and make sure that at town meeting that your voice and perspective is heard there. With that, I'll open the floor to any of the committee members who want to offer any other perspectives. And perhaps Mr. Carr, will start with you.
We've met a couple of times on communications matters in subcommittee, and I think you hit on it. Town meeting is where we get things done in the town. We're lucky. Some towns do not let everybody who is a registered voter go to town meeting, but here in Cohasset we do. So it's an open town meeting, so anybody can go. And it's interesting, we have maybe 8,500, 9,000 people in Cohasset, and not everybody goes. And so I think in order for us to get the town to support the things that we want to do, it was important that we figured out a little bit of strategy about how we can maybe communicate better with the school population, people that are interested in this topic. But that helps everything else in town too. So we looked at a couple of tactics that we thought about and sort of made a loose list. But I think, to get a quorum, you need about 10% of the community to show up, and that starts the meeting. But we really support such a large portion of Cohasset because their students go here, that I think if we were able to make sure we can communicate well with parents and young people over the age of 18 who are also registered to vote, this is an excellent exercise in civics, that we could maybe encourage them to come, maybe even for the first time to a town meeting. So I think I'd love some ideas. If others had some ideas, I'll run some by you also. This is a bit of getting the word out through our contacts, through our mechanisms that we communicate well with, and encouraging families and young people to attend town meeting. Like you said, there's a lot of really important issues on the table at this town meeting, but we only stay competitive and do well because of the investments that we make in our schools and how we run them. And so I think this is a really important exercise now more than ever. When you hear things about $300,000 for kindergarten and $20 million for a new town hall, decisions need to be made. Not everything can be accomplished, but each one of them important. But I think we really need to sort of advocate for ourselves, I think, really now. And frankly, going forward, if someday, hopefully we have a new school, this takes an effort of the community as well. So this is a great opportunity for us. COVID is now wrapping up and people are more accustomed to being in places in person. So I think it's in our best interest to help and get our community out to support the town meeting. It is giving up an important day in your week where you don't have much else to do, but it is critical to how we run our school. So I think however we kind of convey that. I mean, simply things, if each one of us on the board found 10 families in the years where our kids are also in school here and encourage them to go, we are well on our way to help it, and ask them to bring people and come. Little things like that go a long way. My daughter is a senior. She's interested in helping getting some seniors out. And so I think, these are some things, I think as a young person, learning how the sausage is made in a town is really important as you go on to do whatever you do in life. But this is, I think, a good exercise for young people. So we sort of welcome any ideas that you might have. I think the parent-teacher organization is going to be critical to our success. We think social media, the administration does such a great job with weekly communications, maybe a little blurb from the school committee for the next couple of those until town meeting might be a good idea to just sort of maybe get, this is something we could collaborate on.
I can put it in the email.
Yeah.
I can put it in the
Navigator.
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the things, you think, so many times you see people that say, I knew nothing about it. I don't know what's going on. And you can only continue to tell people all the time,
In the street
we are
signs.
doing really important and great work here. And so unfortunately, and like the Carr household suffers with administration on a regular basis at our house. So it's just sometimes you gotta kind of continue to tell people that this is important to do. So that's the way we looked at it. So if anybody have any other thoughts? I think peer-to-peer, family-to-family are great ways to get people to go.
I think those signs actually, as basic and simple as they are, I think they really help. I mean, I've noticed them in my town, the town I live in, that those signs, you drive by and you say, oh, those are me. I just want to make sure we don't overlook that as an actually effective resource.
Sounds.
The sign, I think, is, without me asking Glenn Pratt to do it, I think that for town meeting and for election day, that is usually up anyway.
Okay.
What's the date of the meetings? now?
Day one.
May 1st. At 7 PM, or something late. Late
Yes.
night, Larry.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and there are, so the
Yeah, time is,
The order of things is not yet established on the warrant, from what I understand, but I believe most of the material items impacting the schools and other big expenditures will be front-loaded on the warrant. And in fact, we will be doing a quick community update at the beginning of the town meeting to talk a little bit about some of the successes of our schools and some of the areas for future development. So you don't necessarily have to commit to the whole thing if you're thinking of coming, but if you support the schools, your presence there for a good amount of the first part of the meeting is really helpful. And as Mr. Carr said, if you tell two friends and they tell two friends and they tell two friends, pretty soon we have a representation of our schools that represents the amount of the communities that our schools touch. So, yes.
because many of our kindergarten families are not already in the district. Any oldest children will be attending kindergarten. Just can a separate email be sent out to those families who are registered for kindergarten? Because it would be in their best interest to attend and vote for free kindergarten. And they're not, like, for people who don't have a child in the district already, they're not getting.
That's a
the
great
newsletter.
idea. They're not in our system yet, but we can probably, I just don't know the application. I'm sure there's an email on the application. You just have to have somebody do that by hand.
I just think it would behoove us and
It's a great
them
idea.
to send a targeted email to incoming families.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We can do that.
Also, in the future, as soon as people register for kindergarten, should they not just be on the district emails earlier than
Well, we turn over, we don't until
July
we start,
1 rule?
when we roll over the whole system. That's how we do it every year. Like, because you don't, until you're an active student, you're
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
really privy to that, you know.
I guess it would just be helpful because when people say they didn't know, they usually truly didn't know.
So we just encourage people to go on the website because everything we put is on the website, but
Yeah, I just think that's unrealistic for like young parents. They're not like
Yeah.
casually exploring the district website. They're trying to just survive.
Right,
every
it's all
minute.
tied, yeah, it's all tied into the state, so that's why it rolls over when it rolls over, so. that's the problem.
So maybe worth just thinking some ideas of how to communicate with those, because those families, some of them are obviously going to have siblings, so they'll be within our communication range, but those are families who this would be an important meeting for them too.
oh, we'll definitely do this. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
It's not difficult. We just, every year, we get the registration information. We just create a separate, because it can't be on the district listserv, right? Because they're not enrolled yet. But we just do a separate one for incoming kindergarten families and the expansion of our pre-K program will assist with that because those people will be in the district and they'll already be. But either way, there will be other families that are incoming and we just need to create a separate list. Not a
We
big
can do
deal.
that. Mrs.
It's 100
Farrow.
100 names or so, 110 names or so, and
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, I'll give you an example. We have the kindergarten jumpstart program. So Mrs. Farrell's going
She
to
has all that
communicate with them
information.
anyway. So
Yeah,
there you go.
We can figure it. Mrs. Farrell would be more than happy.
We have,
Sure.
we we'll just do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think it makes sense to loop them in sooner
It
than
does.
later.
It does.
And
It's
get everyone in,
inclusive.
getting
Yeah,
everyone in the groove.
Yeah, no, I think everyone's on board with that.
Oh,
I just want to know relative to your comments, Mr. Dial, that, and then how there are upcoming, major capital items that interest the schools. There are some that are on this town warrant, this warrant for this town meeting, excuse me. However, we did try to advance others, just so everyone's aware that the school committee and or the school facilities committee was advocating for additional items to be placed on this warrant for this town meeting, those including feasibility study for either renovated or new middle high school, as well as we discussed the possibility of what's called a special purpose stabilization fund for ongoing repair and maintenance issues within all of the buildings district-wide, all campuses, to address the ongoing maintenance issues. We don't really have a tool other than that same common pool of capital budget that all departments make requests to. It's not very, very, very large, and this town has historically employed a deferred maintenance plan, essentially, to apply the deferred maintenance plan to all of its assets, its physical plant assets, and that has not, I don't think, yielded great results. So one prudent or responsible financial planning tool is the special purpose stabilization fund, which allows a town to allocate a certain amount of money to a fund each year that is dedicated to a certain department for ongoing repair and maintenance needs. And that's one thing that we also asked the select board to consider putting on the warrant this time around. Select board did not put it on the warrant this time around, and they also took similar action as in connection with the feasibility study request, indicating that instead they think that it would be more appropriate to place that on a warrant for what they anticipate will be a special town meeting in the fall in October. And that will be that town meeting will focus on, I think, the other capital projects in other departments townwide that are necessary. And I think they thought that there may be some, it would be appropriate to have some further planning relative to that town meeting and sort of prioritizing what capital projects are necessary and appropriate. So I think that was the reasoning there. I will say that neither capital budget nor advisory seem to have any appetite whatsoever for the feasibility study. I think the select board was a little bit more receptive to that. It sounds like we may revisit that in the fall. That said, our MSBA application, which we will address tonight, will be for the statement of interest for the core program, will be submitted, and decisions on whether or not Cohasset will be invited to participate in the coming year's program will be, those decisions will be published in December. So not long after this town meeting, the special town meeting, if it happens, and if the feasibility study is considered on that warrant in October, we will know whether we're accepting the MSBA. So it'll either be a good preemptive measure where if we're not accepted, we've done this and we can move forward with feasibility study, which is what it's intended to do, to give Cohasset, information and data relative to an upcoming project, and not waiting on the MSBA train, which may never come, or there's no guarantees. There's no set number of times that you apply and then eventually you're in. Or we'll be informed happily that we've been invited, and then we will just stop any sort of feasibility study that was approved. And we wouldn't be far along in that anyway by December, because it takes a while to put it out to bid and figure out which professionals you'd engage. So just wanted to note that the schools have been advocating for that. They're heavily and extremely and intensively, but we just didn't get much traction this time around. And we're hoping that the select board will make good on some statements that we'll see that in a special town meeting in October. And we appreciate their ongoing collaboration.
Thank you, Vice Chair McClellan. I'll just add that, that this town meeting cycle has shown that, getting a good turnout of families who are interested in the schools is really important to show the town that we care about our schools and we want to make sure that they are the facilities worthy of our children. So again, the call goes out to block your calendars, save the time, May 1st, town meeting. I think it's important to be there, not only for the incoming families for people coming into what would potentially be free kindergarten, but for the students and generations beyond that, as we do a more strategic planning for the overall and longer term capital needs. So any of the comments, thoughts on town meeting before we move on
Just to maybe put it in perspective, so town meeting generally gets between 200 and 300 people every town meeting. So we're not talking about a huge amount of people, but I think it would be terrific if we had a loose goal to try to double that number. We could get another 200 or 300 people that are out of the school committee group, the people that be interested in what we're doing here to come. I think that's a great metric for us to try to help support the issues that we have. I would not be surprised that some of the other items on the agenda for this town meeting will be well supported by people that are interested in those projects. Some of those people will also be interested in ours, but I think if we set a goal to maybe try to get those kinds of numbers and double the effort of this town meeting, that's a great problem for all of us to have, that those people turn in. So
Even doubling it would be less than 10% of the town's population.
exactly.
And I'll commit to this. If we can double it with school families, I'll see if we can arrange for the Harlem Wizards to come play the school committee. So, in a game of basketball.
Oh, it's basketball.
Yes. So.
See you there, Mr.
So great.
I'll work on growing 1 foot before then.
And I think I think we have another meeting between now and May 4th. No, we don't. We don't have another meeting
We
between now
have
and May
May
1st.
3rd is our next
We
meeting.
do
May
not.
3rd is our next meeting. So
There's our
hopefully we
last
will
meeting in April. Yeah.
see everyone at the town meeting.
And you will hear from us further.
Great.
Further.
So absent any other comments on schools and town meeting, we'll move on to a RAD training update. So, Dr. Sullivan, would you like to do the introductions?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll invite Detective Lopes, Lieutenant Lopes. And obviously, School Resource Officer, Officer Taylor. I just want to thank them for their service and everything they do for our schools. They're really instrumental in keeping us safe, and it's an absolute pleasure working with both these gentlemen. They do, obviously, you know that Officer Taylor does quite a lot for our schools in his role. Mr. Lopes does as well, Officer Lopes does as well with all of his work, particularly in training us for Alice and all of our safety measures.
Yep.
And it's great having them with us.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Just to give you guys a background, the reason why I'm here is I'm a lieutenant with the police department that supervises CID, which is our Criminal Investigations Division, and our school resource program, and also Taylor fall within that organizational structure. So, we have to divvy up what we do for assignments and everything else, and Greg works obviously with me and the detectives. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. We very much appreciate it.
He's my boss.
So you got to do a bang up presentation then.
It's more of an update. First of all, I apologize for my attire. I was on the softball field, my daughter's softball field, helping out with her team. So
that's priority.
You're allowed to be a dad.
sometimes, yeah. So it might be like 6 months ago now, I think we met. And one of the hot topics then was like self-defense for sophomores, seniors, juniors, somewhere around there, seniors that are leaving to go off to college. And we had talked about it. One of the difficulties that we were running into was finding a program in this area to attend. And we did find one. It's in Foxborough. It's on April 24th. We have 3 officers, including myself, that are willing to go and take the program. And three's a good number. We can run the RAD Kids program with 2 because there's not as much self-defense going on. It's like half self-defense, half classroom. With this, it's mainly self-defense. So 3 is a good number, just to keep everybody safe and, you know, having those eyes. It's just good. 3 is a good number. So we do have 3. Detective Hall is one of them, Julie Hall, and Officer Greg Lawrence has helped me out with the Rad Kids program. He's the big, tall guy. If you guys have seen him, he's very, very recognizable. Kids like him very much. He's a good fit.
So I'm out there against the Wizards.
Oh, yeah.
Along with Officer Taylor.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for doing
It's a
that.
tough night. Tough night. We'll get him next year.
You didn't think you were gonna win.
So yeah, so basically what we're here, and we have an update. And last time we met and I presented what the actual Rad Adults program was to you guys. I think it was a general consensus, and anything that, you know, you guys need from us, let us know. So here I am. We got an invoice for $16.50.
Yep.
And this is to get the 3 officers that have volunteered trained in the RAD class. And that way there we can, after this training, we're now instructors and we can start classes. We can work with, I know Coach Sweeney, Torrance Sweeney, has been very adamant about getting this done. Coach Ford as well. And then there's other places throughout the community that have reached out and asked if we have something like this. So if we are able to do this training at the end of April, we can start talking about classes the next day and starting to work it in. Maybe we could get something worked out by like the end of the summer, or not end of the summer, like before the end of the school year, before summer starts. So we need to, but we need to get trained first.
You know, these benefits for, you know, the kids going off to college, you kind of want to get them in the program and prep before they go off on their own. They have some skills and some knowledge to help them through some difficult situations they might, you know, come across.
Officer Taylor, how long is this certification for? How long does it last?
So after we're trained.
Yeah.
Do
you have to be out there?
With Rad Kids, it's just a fee every year. With Rad Adults, I'm not sure. I don't think there's retraining. I know a lot of people.
So is there a fee? Do you know what the fee is every year?
For Rad Kids, it's like $75.
Oh, okay.
Per person.
It's nothing.
I believe if you teach, if you keep instruction up throughout the year, you know, you're basically letting them know that you did 5 classes this year, you did 4 classes this year, and you know your certification stays active. Obviously, if you're not teaching any classes over a 2-3 year span, they're going to want you to come back.
So with the Rad Kids, we have to do 2 a year. We've done 3 already within the year. And we just report back. They want like your roster and names of the students roster and stuff, like just to prove that you're actually doing the classes. So yeah, if you keep your classes up and you can prove back that you're doing classes, your cert continues.
And you said Torrin, and I just want to get a couple of clarifying, if that's okay. You said Torrin and Ron. Is this something you can see yourself collaborating with both Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Ford and others in that position? I know that I believe we had a certified teacher as well.
Yes, they think Ms.
Beal, yes, I didn't want to speak out of turn if she wasn't, but so I'm just interested to hear about a little more about the collaboration and how that might fit in with us and what we do, particularly from that maybe a curriculum perspective, but certainly a club perspective or a programmatic perspective. Have you had any more conversations regarding that?
So actually, right before COVID hit, Coach Sweeney and I had actually built a block to do his class. It was over like a 2-week span. And we were going to have we had 2 Hingham officers coming in to help us out that were trained in it. And it was pretty much set.
Yes.
We had the schedule all done. It worked with the rotating schedule.
That's good.
Um,
And this speaks to our collaboration. We had some conversations about collaboration with the police department in terms of curriculum.
Yeah.
I mean, this, maybe curriculum light, but it's still in the health curriculum, so.
Well, it was originally brought up by Mr. Sweeney. He was the one that was really interested and thought that, there was a need for it and he could implement it in his existing schedule. So he's the one that approached us originally. And we didn't have anybody trained, so we did reach out to the Hingham Police to see if they could help us out. And then, like Officer Taylor said, COVID hit and, threw a monkey wrench into everything. But, there's something to be said for being self-sufficient and being able to, do these classes on our time, line, as opposed to, counting on another agency to come and help us. They will help us and assist us, but, we want to be self-sufficient, have the people trained, and be able to do these things on our own.
And the 1650 was each?
Yes.
No, that's total.
That's total?
Total.
Yeah. So it's $550 per person.
And then I just have a quick question too around, so the original plan was like over a 2-week period, every student in that course, whether male or female, would participate in it? Is that the thought,
Yeah.
And then we just have to have that in the course description,
Yeah,
so they know what they were.
apparently, I.
I mean, I'm assuming that's stuff that we can work out, but I'm assuming if somebody didn't want to take
And
it,
perhaps parent consent.
they
Right, yeah.
wouldn't, they wouldn't
100%.
have to take it.
Or opt out.
Correct.
They can also sit out in the physical parts if they want, right? My
Absolutely.
understanding.
Yes.
For some, but but you'd still, but in that way, even if you wanted to participate, you didn't want to get the physical part of it, you're still observing, you're still getting some of the knowledge. I mean, a lot of it, it's not all the physical part, right?
No.
A lot of it's like the knowledge, identification of bad situations, what you'd like to do is avoid any sort of physical
Right.
altercation, right? So that's a large part of it too, right?
Right, you're
Avoiding
absolutely
that,
correct.
The last resort is the physical
Right.
Absolutely.
part of it,
I
so.
mean, even just watching the altercations, you can pick up a lot.
Right,
Oh, I can do that.
right.
Hit here, do this.
I have two college-age daughters who've gone through the program where I live in Braintree, and I think it gives them a little confidence as well.
Sure.
I must say, I feel like I went through that training when I was younger, and I still, when I'm walking down the street, I'll like go through the little script in my head, just in case. Like
Right.
if I'm thinking it, I'm safer.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Preemptive.
People can repeat.
She took me down when she hears on the side of
Right,
caution.
no, go away.
I remember two girls that were very good at knee kicks in my rad kids class.
I can't imagine who you're
Yeah.
trying to, terrifying, say no children.
Obviously, the concern for me in talking with some of the administrators that, want to be deliberate about what types of police certifications we're paying for at a school district, right? I mean, obviously, it's like a police certification, be a town expense.
Right.
But where there's some incorporation into the curriculum and collaboration with our faculty, maybe that makes it more palatable. I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah,
really
no,
defer to the
Yeah,
administrators there.
I do have a question around, so, I'm doing cost in my head.
Yeah.
So if the three officers are coming in to do the course over the 2 weeks, and then are we paying for your time also in addition to? So what are the thoughts around that?
No, I know.
Okay.
Obviously, the police department would allow the officers the time and
Okay.
compensate them appropriately
Right,
for the
okay,
training.
okay. And
It's
then,
just like-
and then when they come in for so when you come in, we wouldn't receive an invoice around an hourly rate.
No.
Is that what, yeah. okay.
Good question, though, Dr. Scollins.
Or a 4-hourly rate.
Someone's received a surprise. Don't
Right?
No. These are good questions, because we're trying to figure out.
Right, well, I'm just trying to figure out,
Really good question.
budget
appreciate it.
Would be
things.
considered detail.
It would be
Yes.
similar to the, let's say the Alice training. Obviously, we do
Right,
predominantly, we do it town-wide, but we do it with the schools. And, obviously, we're not charging you
Right.
for officers to come in.
right.
Right.
I just wasn't sure
that
where,
training.
right. Yeah, I just wasn't sure where it was over a course of like 2 weeks. It's that's significant amount of time, right? So I want to make sure.
Just to kind of focus the conversation, the ask to make this a reality is $1,650, not $16.50, $1,650.
Yes, sorry.
So, done.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Pass the hat.
we can, on that point, I think that we can work with the administration and talk to people in the town and see where we can scrape and come together with something. But I think what you're hearing broadly from the committee is that this is something that is a useful tool, and we'd like to explore and figure out how to make it happen, because, I mean, safety is important, and these are important and effective tools for our kids, so.
The connections are good. I think Dr.
I just have one.
Sure, yeah, Dr. Scoggins.
Would there be any thought about working with the recreation department too? I'm looking for funding sources. So if this were something, if the certification happened, would you offer this to the recreation department?
Yes.
And so then.
Yeah,
there's
we could-
funding for the
We could offer a.
Yeah, no,
So I'm just wondering a
This is a good
collaboration between the
conversation,
recreation
right, so
department
maybe
around,
we can split
around
it,
the training.
Is this
The
Mr.
cost-
Potentially.
Sweetie's, is Mr. Sweetie's class all freshmen? Is it a freshman year class, or is it mixed? I can't
He's
remember.
sophomore and senior.
Sophomore.
I think it's- yes, I think
It's Mr. Ford?
Coach Ford
It's
is
freshmen
freshman.
and juniors.
Okay.
And so I'm just trying to figure out ways, right? So if that were to be part of the conversation.
When do you need this?
Well, so 28th of April.
24th.
Yes,
Right.
the
Right.
No, but it's an invoice, it's not like you have to show up with the cash,
Right,
right?
it's an invoice.
So we need to.
You need a commitment.
But
to be able to
exactly,
pay.
so
Yes.
that they can
Yep,
go.
Exactly.
Right.
That's basically what we're looking for, is the commitment, so we can let them know, and confirm their attendance, and then we can work on the payment.
Okay. So that's April 24th. I think we will work on finding a way to do that. I don't think we have to do a motion or anything at this point for $1,650. I think we should find things, and we also need to work it down and see.
No, I think that's more,
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
operational.
we're very interested in the collaboration. It's just a matter of, so we'll get our heads together in the next couple of days and be able to reach out to you.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that enough time for you to sign? I mean, like, are you guys, you're already signed up?
We're already signed up.
Okay, all right.
We have the seats.
All right, so basically, all right, so if we don't get back in time, if we get back to them and say, sorry, can't do it, then they just won't go.
No,
They don't get charged.
but I appreciate the inquiry, and I think it's great.
It is great, yeah.
Any other views from committee members?
Just that I'm exploring.
I wasn't aware that that was that closely connected. That's a nice
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, it's good to know that prior to COVID, this already was kind of hashed out and the, just knowing you can integrate it into a kind of a short time period within the class.
Yeah, that's why it's 2 weeks, because we had to deal with the.
Yeah, the
block.
rotating schedule, right,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
totally
rotating.
appreciate
I didn't think
that.
anyone listened.
And I think that,
Listens, yeah, if you're not here.
I mean, obviously, having an opt-out is important
Yeah.
and
there's-
necessary.
Yeah, that's all.
But like,
Yeah.
what a great opportunity to be able to do that during the school day, just because having something after school with rec is like, a lot of these kids aren't available after school. They're at a million other things. So doing it during the school day is really,
Yeah.
makes it like nice. It's a
People
nice
send out letters without
equity
waiting for it.
to it.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Did I speak in a turn?
No, you did not.
You guys are chatting.
Someone did, though.
I
Oh,
know.
sorry.
Yeah. So,
We're all just.
Any other
strong
comments,
people who
questions from the
turn.
committee?
PhD.
All right, well, thank you very much for
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
putting this
Appreciate it.
together. I think it's a great thing. You have the support of the committee. We just need to figure out how to turn that support into green dollars.
Yep.
And we'll work on
Want me
that.
to email this to anyone or send it to
We
anyone?
should probably have.
Yes,
Yes.
Send it to all or?
the docs.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just take a picture right now, and make it a PDF and email it to him?
Yeah, if you send it to Dr. Scoggins and to me, that'd be great.
Okay.
We'll loop in the money person.
That's fine. A little breezy.
You guys can proceed. I'm just gonna take this.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, appreciate it.
so much.
Very nice. Thanks for all you do again.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thank you for working.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
So,
guys.
excellent training update. I'm glad we got that on the agenda. I did not appreciate the timeliness factor of that. So let's move with all due haste to figure out what our options are. And also, I think it might be useful to coordinate with Chief Hopefully as well, see what their appetite is, and just make sure we're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
But I have to believe that we, between us and the towns and the various departments, can scrape together.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very nice resource to have in town.
It's a one-time expenditure too.
And we can figure this out.
So,
Right.
Yeah, to have 3 officers certified is really.
Yeah, I didn't
nice.
realize, I heard about it peripherally. I didn't realize the direct line to, helping our kids.
I didn't either.
And now I do.
Yeah.
So,
So that was helpful.
with that, I think, Dr. Sullivan, do you have some, brief school updates?
Just some brief school updates. I just shared some pictures here from, you mentioned our wonderful event with the Harlem Wizards. And it truly was, it was a joyous event. Pete, I don't know why this is flashing when I put up images, but we'll just have to get this fixed.
Yeah, I think it's probably just us though.
Think I can,
It's probably not online.
I can, maybe not, but we can deal with it for tonight anyway. But we did have a wonderful event. I want to thank all of the teachers, all of the staff, all of the fans who came out, and of course the Harlem Wizards, and very much the PSO. It was a labor of love. I know Mrs. Dial did a fabulous job in organizing it among other folks, but it was fun, had by all. I brought my 8-year-old, and he loved it, and left with a birthday present, which was a Harlem Wizards basketball.
Excellent.
Dribbling throughout my living room.
Nice, yes.
A percentage of those proceeds went back to the PSO.
That's correct, that's
So-
correct. So, but here you just have some candidates of what happened, and you can see the kids very excited. It was a close game for a bit. And they have some of the Deer Hill crew, they have the cheering crew going on over there. You have, of course, we've adopted a sort of an otter as a mascot down at the Osgood. And then, of course, you have the deer. They make appearances every now
Was it
and then.
Ray?
It was
Michelle?
Ray. It was Ray.
What a guy.
Great guy, yeah. And here you have just some more
Oh,
candidates.
Ray. I'm a good sport.
So anyway, I just thought that was a really fun event. You can see they called them the Whiz Kids, and they had them training before the event started, and you had the the limited edition trading cards of the teachers ready to.
I believe there still are some available.
I bet they are.
Not too late. Some
And they're
are
limited.
sold out.
So
So act now.
but the enthusiasm from the staff was really appreciated, and there you have Ms. Dial being thanked in public here, so it was nice. So we did have a pep rally before it at Osgood to celebrate those very brave souls who were playing and cheering in the event. Just a few other things. This is, of course, the presentation of the check for from the McNamara's for our lovely Deer Hill Innovation Commons, which will be called the Susan B. McNamara Innovation Commons. We'll have more information on that as we go in the ceremony that will ensue for that. Thank you, CEO.
Where do you deposit such a large check?
That big check?
Yeah.
I don't know, I've been trying to jam it in the hole of
The
the
ATM?
ATM machine. It's just-
Yeah.
It's really difficult. I don't know.
You may have to get them to write
Maybe
you a
I'll-
small one as well. but-
Perhaps. Speaking of money that is now coming to fruition here, we have our lovely turf being played on, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait for some of the drone pictures from the company so I can show it off a little better. But the first action was a boys lacrosse game, and it was wonderful to see. Appeared to be a very nice functional field to go inside a beautiful track. So very
And,
nice to see.
and addressing and it's important to remember, because I had these conversations with some people over the weekend, important to remember that this was safety issues. We now have a safe field and track that we don't need to worry about kids spraining their ankles and otherwise getting injured.
No bubbles in the track and no dead spots on the turf. And we have a, concussion safe turf. That's very important. So.
Primary motivation.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we have the spring weather, which has been creeping in on us, but it's nice to see our Deer Hill courtyard being used. And of course, we have our amazing collaboration with Holly Hill Farm. This is Farmer John Belber, who's doing some work here. He does work with all of our schools, but this was some excellent work happening at Deer Hill. Early planting season happening, and it's nice to see this in full effect. You can see some of the garden. It looks beautiful at Deer Hill. our oh so good call home continues. There's another student who's of distinction, and it's wonderful to have her calling home to her folks. And just some candidates from Osgood, but we have our great youth ambassadors performing in a play called Samantha Skunk, which is teaching kids about the necessary precautions around prescription medication and to stay away from them, and what you do if you find some. And that's also going to happen down at the Osgood level. It's a high quality and it's from our own kids. So, and thank you, Safe Harbors, for your work with that. We're lucky to have them. We had a junior, Catherine Toomey, chosen by her peers to represent the high school at the 2023 Massachusetts Student Government Day at the State House. There she is, pictured with Mr. Luisi. So wonderful honor, and nice to have her there. PSO Readathon, they did such a wonderful job, and these are just some doors that just show the care and the real like thought with detail that they put into these doors. And it was about games. Interesting, because the two schools sort of looked at them differently. One school looked at it as sports, and Deer Hill really went all out with like games, like everything from board games to video games. Just as a nice mix of definition games. A couple of events we had thank you to our paraprofessionals. We had a paraprofessional appreciation day for us. Those are our ESPs, educational support professionals. Very lucky to have them, and also very lucky to have our two assistant principals. That's Dr. Kate Salas on the left there from the middle school, and Ms. Taranois on the right from the high school. It was National Assistant Principals Week last week, so we were able to celebrate their efforts all week. And then we did also have National School Librarian Day, and we have three amazing librarians, Leslie Dimony, Jennifer Gallagher, Leslie at Osgood, Jennifer Gallagher at Deer Hill, and Kathy Cerruti right here at the middle and high school. Thank you for all they do for students and staff. We do have Earth Day upcoming. We have recycling happening, and this is working with the town's resiliency and grant coordinator. I know that was something that we were looking into, Chairman Dial. We were looking at what are the schools doing to promote resiliency and to promote basically everything that the Green Team is doing. This is an example of that. That's more with the Green Team. They went down and worked. Our high school Green Team went down and worked with our elementary kids to help them understand about recycling and the importance of that. And here they are talking to them. You can see there was a big crowd and captivated. Nothing like older kids to interest younger kids. It happens. We have some, by the way, we have some great collaboration happening between the middle and the high school and our elementaries. You can really see the reciprocal nature of that our older kids get a lot, whether it's reading to the kids or it's doing activities like the Green Team did. It's just a wonderful reciprocal opportunity. And I wanted to put another pitch in for this coming up tomorrow night from 6 to 7:30 p.m. In the gymnasium. Yes. Is our first inaugural multicultural night. It's Mosaic. Please come and celebrate Cohasset's multicultural community. I'll be there in a leadership table. Should be fun. So I'm excited about that. And thank you for those who have taken the efforts to put that together. And that's it. I just wanted to share that. I know that was sort of a recap of the Navigator, but I was looking for pictures. I'm like, they're all here. I'm just going to use this today. So anyway, that's just an update on some of the happenings in the schools over the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Dr. So that'll conclude our school news, and we'll move over to Dr. Leslie Scollins with a literacy update.
Oh, make you the co-host, I will. And again, this is sort of a partner to what I had started with, the timeline, and dive into that a little bit more. Sure. You are a co-host now. I figure, for some reason, I lost control of the camera. I can't.
Yeah.
And it's not flashing to people. It's only flashing there. So like if I'm looking at it on the screen, I'm
Oh,
not
that's
seeing
good.
it.
Okay. have to fix that.
Must be a setting in there, Flash and not Zoom. We'll just look for those
What
little
detracts
slider
motion.
bars. Yeah.
All right, so this is just, I'm gonna highlight just a couple of things that came off of the timeline that Dr. Sullivan talked about. Maybe. Whoops, there we go. The first one is the Student Opportunity Act, the SOA. So that's something that we were required to do a couple of years ago. It was postponed a bit because of COVID, but we were to choose a particular area that we wanted to focus to improve our either student achievement or whatever our district wanted. So we had chosen early literacy, which is kindergarten through grade 3. And we also had to pick a particular subgroup. And although we're looking at literacy through 5th grade, and working really hard the past couple of years, the SOA grant was specifically tied to this. We don't really actually receive any money for this. Other districts get lots and lots of money. There is some money that comes through Chapter 70, I believe, but anyway. But we did receive a $5,000 grant when this first came to pass. And so when we look at the subgroup, it is students with a specific learning disability in reading. We have 32 students, K through 3. And so I had to do a progress report for the state. And so they just wanted to know how our students are doing and what some of the metrics were, and really kind of some of our budgeting and what we're doing and what we are, other districts who get a lot of money, they have to kind of justify the money that they're getting. I'm just sharing what we're spending, which is way more than they have given us. So, but anyway, but I just wanted to show you just some quick little data from our winter benchmarks. So most of the students showed growth in their foundational literacy skills. So out of the 32 students, when we're looking at the iReady diagnostic at winter, 24 of them met their grade level benchmark. 24 of those students actually had typical growth of 43% or more. And if you remember a few weeks ago, when I talked a little bit about iReady, at this point in time, you want to be about 50% for typical growth. And so we had 43% or more. So I thought that was pretty good. The thing that I wanted to make sure that I shared too was around some of those stretch growth pieces. But if you look around the 24 students right below, it says 15 students had typical growth of 88% to 232%. So there was some significant growth for those students. This doesn't mean necessarily that they all met benchmark, but what it meant was that they were making progress toward it. And then if we look, there were 26 students that had stretch growth of 15%. And typical stretch growth is 20 to 30% by the end of the year. And the stretch growth is where kids, their gap gets reduced, right? So if they do typical growth, that means that they're going to grow at the rate and they're at a typical rate and they'll just keep moving along at that rate. We need them to hit stretch growth if we want them to close the gap. And so those 26 students did have 15% more, which was good. Then we had 15 students had stretch growth of 54 to 131 out of that 26 kids. So I thought that was pretty impressive to have 54% to 131 of their stretch growth. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean they met benchmark. It just means they had significant growth, which is really what we're looking for, because our students have a disability and they are often 1 to 2 years behind academically from their peers. So we're trying to close that gap as much as we possibly can based on their disabilities. And then when we looked at the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills, here are the DIBELS, 10 of the students met their dynamic composite score. So that's all scores. Some of them had high scores and completed their in the subset skills, but I just took the composite score for it because I just had to give a quick progress report. And then students in grades 1 and 2 take the developmental reading assessment, the DRA, and their winter benchmark. 5 of the 17 students in those grades met the benchmark. And that's a very different kind of assessment. But anyway, so I just want to give you a quick update on that. And then the next thing I want to talk about, and I know Dr. Sullivan mentioned this, the Department of Ed has actually done a really nice job building out their website. So they built it out for teachers, obviously over years, there's lots there, but there's a lot, they're trying to build out a lot for families and communities. And so when you go here, they have all sorts of components around literacy, but there's a lot for families and community, which is very helpful. And they actually, even if you go into the standards, they have some really nice sheets on what you should be looking for your students, whether it's in reading, whether it's in writing, whether it's in math. It'll kind of give you, for your grade level, they'll go in and tell you, you can just kind of pull it up and it's very easy to read. One of the things they did create was this mass literacy guide. And that is at the bottom here. And it's this document right here. What should I be looking for in my child's classroom? I'm part of a group of many districts where we're looking at literacy. And so we meet on a monthly basis, and there are people that are way more expert in literacy than I am. We have reading coaches, we have assistant superintendents, we have superintendents, all sorts of different people on this group, as we're trying to make sure that we are providing the best literacy that we can. When this came out, there was some frustration around how it was couched. And so we did have a collective response to this document. I'm going to go through it and talk about what we do in Cohasset, but I wanted to let you know that there was a collective response. There were 37 districts that signed this letter that we sent to the Department of Ed, basically asking for them to reconsider some of the way they have made the statements, because it felt like it was setting teachers and schools and administrators, setting them up for almost an adversarial conversation, and that wasn't what we want. We want collaborative conversations, and so the state was extremely responsive. They responded right away. And so we have a small group of people that are going to meet with a couple of people from Department of Ed. We're hoping that Jeff Riley's there also, because we also offered, not only did we share our concerns, but we offered solutions as to what we think would be better in these areas when you're trying to give parents information about what they should be looking for. This was a very simplistic view and not necessarily as comprehensive as it could be, so it may be misleading for families. So, but other than that, there's lots of other things that are good resources. So I'm going to go back and just, and so what I have done is I've just really kind of taken that document, and I'm going to quickly just go through, because I think it's important for people to know what we're doing as a district. There's a quick little, so I've taken this. Sorry, it's hard because I've got the people on my screen here, so I keep trying to move them around. And so in this document, there's several questions. And if you remember looking, there was the question, and then it has, sounds good with the green flag, raise concerns with the red flag. But the question was, does my child get instruction and practice in the ability to hear the individual sounds within words phonemic awareness? And that is yes. And in Cohasset, because we have a comprehensive program, we decided that we wanted to pick and choose the best things that we could to address what we know is important for teaching reading. No one thing can do it all. And so it's important that for us to pick and choose what we think will address the needs of our students. So we had put Heggerty in this year at the program K-2, that's phonemic awareness, and we've had great success with it. Teachers love it. It's very structured, it's sequenced, it's 10, 15 minutes every day. Kids get the instruction they need. They love it. They sing. It's really been successful. So we do that and we address it. How do the texts within each unit build knowledge on a specific topic? Do they reflect varying cultures and perspectives? And we've been very committed to building our teacher texts and libraries that include authors from different backgrounds. That's very much what we're doing in cultural responsiveness. And it's very much part of our curriculum review process. So not only are we doing it outside of that, but it is also a really big part of our curriculum review process, which will be happening. And so we've done a lot around professional development, as you know, to help move that along. And again, it talks about phonics instruction. Is it clear step by step with scope and sequence? Yes, we use Wilson's Foundations phonics program. We've had that in place for several years now, and it is sequenced and it is a very systematic way to teach phonics for our students. We've seen success with that. And then how are students taught to read an unknown word? So we have our systematic instruction through Foundations using the phonics program, Heggerty Phonemic Awareness. We have purchased all brand new decodable readers to practice those strategies. And so we take it really seriously because we want kids to love reading, but they can't love reading if they can't decode. And then,
Remember the way these questions are organized, you have the question,
yes,
and then you have what the state says you should be hearing.
right,
And then they have what the state says you should not be hearing.
right.
And what Dr. Scollins is showing that we are meeting what the
We
state
are.
is asking. Although, it's a little bit negative in the way it's placed.
It is, and it's really, yes, and it's definitely, it's more around the concern areas and where it's just written too simplistically and almost leading you in a direction that we thought we wanted to be more cohesive. But thank you for that clarification. I just didn't want to take everybody through all of the boxes.
No, it's just, as I'm looking at this,
Yeah.
I forget what the
Right.
the two things are.
Thank you.
My own brain.
It's all good. And then how are students grouped for small group reading? And so we collect our data from iReady, Diagnostic, from Dibbles, from the summative and formative assessments that our teachers do. And we spent a lot of time with professional development on how do you create individual and small group instruction and based on your data.
And our new position that was just hired will be helping with those
Correct.
data dialogues.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brock?
Yep, exactly. And then will my child get to read or hear grade level complex texts? Yes. Students do listen to read alouds, language rich texts, as well as having opportunities to read books of their choosing, because that's really important. And to make sure that they're in just right books. So they're not what we call fake reading, but we make sure that they're actually reading appropriate text for them. And so, because the students really need the opportunity to practice the things that we teach them. And does the curriculum include diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and identities to deepen learning? And again, we are working really hard to make sure that we are inclusive in our libraries, and we have made sure that we have funding at the building level and the district level to buy more books. And then again, curricular development that continues on and work at the building levels to make sure that they are in fact looking at what is being offered to make sure it's inclusive. And then finally, how is writing taught? And their model is, that the students have their teacher that models for them, that they write every day, and that they practice. And then finally, students do that on their own. They do. We follow that methodology and that model of writing. And the resource that we have right now is Empowering Writers. And that's the resource they use from K-5 level. So that is that guide, and those were kind of the questions that we have. All right.
I would just like to say that I think that our educators have done a really wonderful job with all of these elements. And I feel like we've done a really nice job of inviting them in because we've seen almost every single one of these demonstrated here
Sure.
by teachers or students or both. I think that Heggerty's new this year, so I don't think we've had a student demo, but that might actually.
We haven't, I think
But we've
they've
seen
yeah,
things along those lines, but I do think just for committee members who don't do that as their job, it is adorable to see the kids segmenting sounds, which maybe doesn't sound as cute as
but
it
they love
is,
it.
but
They
it's
get
so cute.
excited too, which is really nice.
Yeah, and it's just a very full physical response to working with words, but I do feel like, when this document came out, it felt very attacking, and I think felt like, oh geez, this is an intriguing way to frame these things, but we have seen so many of these elements demonstrated in the past, my 3 years here. So I think that the district has done a nice job of building towards this. It does not all happen in a day, and there is no single program that covers all of it.
Takes time, and this gives us a chance to talk about the true the approach that we're taking is truly, the effort is to try to make it comprehensive. And we really meant that. So we're trying to get all the pieces that we find research-based are most effective. And embracing sort of both, the motivational side and also obviously the science.
Right, and I think, you bring up a good point, is that, we want to make sure that we're not throwing out everything because there's something new, right? Or rekindling up. So we want to make sure that we're constantly evaluating what we're doing, looking at all the new research, looking at all new literature around what we should be doing in all of our practices, whether it's reading, math, any of those things, but at the same time, not throwing it all out. And so I think that's also a concern that came out of the group that I work with, is there are things that are really good about a lot of the things that happen in literacy. And all the information and the research around how your brain learns to read is phenomenal, and we should be using that, and we should be considering it, but we shouldn't throw the other things out. Because we just don't want decoders. We want students that are readers, that can get into deep text, understand, problem solve. We want all those pieces. So it can't just be one-sided. So so that's that part of it. So the next thing is there's a proposed amendment to chapter 69. And so I tried to distill it as best I could.
This is the bill that I.
Yes. And so, so I've distilled it. We are already doing a lot of this. So it's more about the direction that the state is taking around trying to get districts to use what they want you to use. And that's never really been an issue in the past. You get to use what you want as long as you have evidence to prove that your kids are doing what they need to do. And they've done it one way by providing grant money if you will use some of the programs that they have deemed high quality, and they use EdReports, they use Curate, which is a division of Department of Ed. But there's different ways that you get in there, and so there's some interesting political avenues around it. But it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means, like with anything, you have to look at all sides. So this law is really based on literacy there. And so districts, if this goes through, districts will be required to submit an annual district literacy strategic plan. And it has to be aligned to the state strategic plan, which does exist. I would assume that they're going to beef up that if this happens. And then it has to be reviewed and approved by the school committee. If third grade English language arts assessment, that will be your MCAS, shows fewer than 50% of meeting or exceeding expectations, or any subgroup that is on average 10% below the school results, the plan shall be appended to a 3-year plan. So this will be an annual plan, but then there'll be a 3-year improvement plan that you'll be put on. And to the state. And then the plan must include professional development for literacy, and DESE shall provide tools and resources for this. Again, we're already doing this.
Yeah.
And although we don't have specific strategic plan, we have aligned our reading literacy plan to align. You have to share what your core reading and literacy curriculum is. You have to have screening, supplemental instruction, interventions with evidence-based literacy instruction and practices aligned to science-based reading research, and also how will the school committee support parents to support the literacy development of their children. So that gives you a job, which is interesting. And then the school committee shall use programs and curricula from the list developed by the department and or approved alternative programs. So again, they haven't really stated how they're going to figure out what those programs are. They do talk about a center, and I'll talk a little bit about that, but that they would be using. But I think there needs to be a little bit more criteria on some of the things. Reading assessments are given 3 times a year, kindergarten through grade 3. We're already doing that. It must be an approved screening instrument. Ours happen to be, so because I do pay attention to all those things, because we don't want to be non-compliant, but we also want to be able to do what we think is best also. And then if screening determines a student is significantly below relevant benchmarks for age typical development and specific literary skills, these are the things that ever happen. And we already do this. I think there needs to be some, when they say significantly below, I think there's some areas that they really need to tighten up because they don't really know what significantly below. would
Right,
look
they
like.
haven't defined.
Right, I mean, what my below may be very different from someone else's below. School shall determine an action with general education, with interventions, with progress monitoring. We do that. We have an MTSS. And then in 30 days of the screening, the school shall inform parents and families of the results, school response, and offer an opportunity for a meeting. And then there's also some work around dyslexia. Now, we have a screener already built in yes, so Dibbles 8 has it. iReady, they are partial, so they're working to make sure that there's aligns, but subject to funding. So this is interesting. I'm not really sure why they would say subject to funding, but notify parents with the results. The screener must be given after the 100th day of school and before the last day of kindergarten for kindergartners. And anyone who is not enrolled in kindergarten but is of age can also get the screener as long as they request it.
And to be clear, I mean, I think it's not the expectations here.
No,
The
it's not the
expectations are
expectations at all.
fair. It's the dictate of how we get to the expectations.
It
That's
is.
troubling because we're a community that should listen to our community and listen to our teachers and staff and work together to create what we know is going to help kids. And we should have demands that we're going to make those standards.
Yeah.
It's the dictate that's trouble.
Right, I think those are the pieces. And because of some of these extra things, I think when I was reading it over again today, it made me think more about some funding. What are they going to provide for funding for us? And also additional staffing. Like, do we need more staffing? Because if I'm thinking like about some of the criteria they have and the expectations, do we need more staffing then to support it? I'm not really sure. If there's a really heavy lift around like reporting and things like that, that's where I was really starting to think about. So, but anyway, again, this is just a proposal, so we'll see what happens. And then any parent with a student in grades 1 and 2 may request a dyslexia screener at no charge. So it's built into Dibbles anyway. So, and then we must adopt a reading screener, intervention approach, and again, all of those things. But they have to be, whatever we choose must be approved by the state. Otherwise, it does not count toward our expenditure. So so there are some penalties financially for you if you do not follow this. And so, which has been different what they've been doing. They've been incentivizing you with grants. Now they're going to penalize you. And then again, DESE will, their responsibility is that they are going to maintain the list of reading instruction curricula for K through 3, excuse me. And they're going to be aligned to evidence-based early literacy and science-based reading. And there's still some confusion around what is science of reading and what's your definition of science of reading. So it's a bit interesting. And then they'll also keep a list of the criteria, the rubric that they use to identify the high quality. And then K through 3, we must adopt a reading instruction curriculum on the approved list by the beginning of 25-26. We have just purchased curriculum resources, and currently they are not on this list. So not all of them, but the units of study are not. But also the K through 2 units of study are new. And so they haven't had a chance to review those yet. And then we also must provide.
Remember, this is the proposed bill. This isn't DESE's.
No, this is not from.
This is the proposed
This is the
bill.
proposed bill,
That's
yeah.
what I was-
Yep. And then also they tell us that we have to provide competency-based professional development, but I'm unclear what that might be. Demonstrate that all educators that are responsible for reading or coaching have completed the specific training. And that includes principals, anybody who really almost touches a kid. So most of us touch with reading. And then any K through 3 student who exhibits a deficiency in reading at any time, and any 4th grade student identified as having a reading deficiency, they will get a reading plan no later than 30 days from identification. The plan is created by teachers, principal, other pertinent personnel, and parents, guardians. Students stay on plan until there is no longer a reading deficiency. So again, there's no real criteria set here. So I'm wondering about that. And it's not that we don't already do this. I'm curious about what kind of plans will there be some sort of specific template or some sort of way that they want us to do it, so I'm not sure. And then district shall offer reading intervention program to each student K through 3 who does not read at or above grade level by the end of grade 3. This to me was a little confusing too, because we would be checking kids all the time. We're not going to wait until they're end of grade 3. So I wasn't quite sure of this. I actually took it right from there. Anyway, we will assess students within 30 days with a DESE approved assessment system, provide explicit instruction and monitor progress. So again, something we already are doing. And then beginning 2024, districts will provide an annual report by October 31st. And then it's just a list of the things they want from us, number of students that have been identified, and then disaggregate them by grade and school, what their potential reading deficit is, and the intervention approach that we are doing. And then December, DESE will then produce a report based on what we send them in October, and it will go to, oh, sorry about the typo. They will go to the Senate President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the members of the House, Senate, Education Committee, the Governor, and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. So when I started to think about all these things and thinking about the volume of reporting that would occur, I just started thinking about staffing and how that would look.
Where is this bill in terms of?
I don't know, because I tried to go online to find out where it was. I had gotten a heads up from another superintendent who actually sat in on the board meeting that occurred. So we knew it was coming, but that's all I know.
You know what it's called?
It's the amendment to chapter 69. I have it right here. I can get you a copy of it.
Somebody felt you should know
If you have a Senate docket number,
about,
does that work?
and we're very open to talk to anybody about how we are functioning and what we're doing in relation to this bill and what our views are on it. It just seems
I don't
dangerous
have,
to me.
yeah, most of it we're already doing, so it's not really that. It's really the dictating around resources, the penalty financially, and then also the load that might occur because of all the reporting pieces. So, because if you're setting up a system of meetings to create the plans, that's just time and power, and away from kids. But anyway, I can get you a copy, or
I think it's Senate 263 or House 579.
yeah, it says number 1751, state docket, Senate docket number. Is that how it goes? Is that how we look at it?
Yeah, that's how you look it up.
Yep, so Senate docket
House
number
579.
1751.
1751.
So we might be looking for some thoughts and potentially support as we move forward.
Have you engaged with our elected representatives on this point?
Yeah, so yes, when I was fortunate enough to be with Mr. McCollum,
Patrick.
and we went to, we did see Patrick
No.
O'Connor, yeah, and Joe Machino. But I did talk to Patrick a little bit about it. He actually brought it up when we were talking with the families from Metco. And we talked about the financial pieces and just some of these things, and he's quite clear that, towns like us, we don't get those big chunks of money that other towns get. And we are also not a town that's rich with commercial tax, right?
Correct.
So we're in a really weird spot. And so all these mandates are fine, but there's other districts that get lots of funding to help support those. And we don't, so.
This is excellent to keep us keep us abreast of what's going on. I do think it's appropriate for us to reach out to our elected representatives, and it seems like this does have some concerns.
Yeah. And they've been, and actually I will say too, that I know that Patrick O'Connor was contacted by the group of literacy specialists that I already spoke of. They've already reached out to him too.
Great.
So,
Do you think that may I speak?
You may.
Do you think, because the state has been obviously focusing on dyslexia and educating educators about dyslexia, and 3 years ago began to offer that dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia course, and then this year for free unless you own a grad credit.
Right.
And then this year it was offering Orton Gillingham training through IMSI for free, again, unless you want grad credit. Do you think they're trying to go in a direction of name brand intervention offering? Like, I think Orton Gillingham training is excellent, and I just took the training through the state. I'm just curious if you think that that's the direction they're heading in, because they are offering it for free, but it is so popular. It's on a lottery system, so it's only so many people can take it at a time.
Right.
I'm just curious because up until now,
Well, the
obviously
bill,
we would offer.
the bill is more severe than what DESI is.
Right, this is definitely, yes, right.
So so the bill, yes, I think the bill is
Yeah.
pointing towards.
In that direction,
Yeah.
yeah, but what may come to fruition, probably.
Yeah, I think I think what they're really trying to do is address how do we make sure that our kids are literate?
Of course.
Like, how do we, this has been going on forever and ever and ever.
The
How do we
expectations are
make
good.
sure that kids are good readers by the time they do that?
Yeah,
right?
but
So
are we doing it in
that's
a way
fair.
that's helping kids, like?
Right.
Like MCAS is addressing that too, right? But that's like,
Well, MCAS is addressing how we.
are we teaching the standards?
Exactly.
Right, but I think, well, this is like, are we teaching reading?
Right, and then,
So
yeah,
it's just a different lens, right?
and I do think it's important that we teach teachers how do you learn to read? What are the mechanics? What is the science behind it? How does your brain work? What are all those pieces? And that isn't something you get in undergrad. When you're becoming a teacher, you don't learn that. And in particular, at the elementary level, you might have one reading. So those things are good, and I think DESE is really trying to find ways to support districts as best they can. And the pandemic certainly made that gap larger for lots and lots of students.
I just hope that they can continue to offer trainings more broadly and make them accessible, because the people who, myself included, who got in through the lottery system this winter, that was like, if you weren't logged in at that moment and didn't
Get in, lots of
click.
Yeah.
It's just, everyone should have that opportunity.
Yeah.
If they want to make sure kids are getting the highest
Mr.
quality.
Carr.
Is there anything in the bill you just think you couldn't deal with?
I think the hard part probably would be if the list of curricula that to choose from, if it doesn't align with our philosophy on making sure that we have a comprehensive approach. That would be my biggest concern, because we've worked so hard to look at all the facets, and we don't want to turn the page type of program for reading.
Yeah.
We have systematic processes to teach reading. We have foundations that's extremely systematic. So is Heggerty, like those things we have, those decodable readers, this is how it works. But there's some other things that are really important around learning how to read past just the decoding pieces, right? So we want to make sure that those foundations are strong, but we also want them to become independent readers. We want them to love reading. We want them to dive into a text, be able to break it apart, really look at the complexities that exist. We've worked really hard too to get our teachers to understand, how do you conference with students? How do you set goals with students specific to their needs? So it's extremely differentiated. How do you create small groups based on the data that you've collected? And how do we ensure that they're getting the interventions they need? So we've done so much work with that. I would be disheartened if we had to then take on a textbook to teach reading.
And remember, we are playing to our strength. Our strength is our teachers. These are our early literacy and numeracy teachers are strong. So what we're doing is we're allowing them to actually teach and to put their own teaching skills into play with that. Bridges is not a math program that is paint by numbers. You have to prep and really work with it. And the approach we're taking to literacy is the same way. It's not turn the page, color by numbers program. And to be forced to go into that kind of approach for us, I feel would be very detrimental to growth at the early numeracy and literacy level. That it's not what we need.
The number one factor in student achievement is good teachers. That's
Yeah.
the number one. Number two is strong leadership, instructional leaders within buildings and across the district. So those are the two factors. And so if we don't invest in our teachers, it really doesn't matter what we give them. Right? So anyway.
The committee has a I've forgotten who it is, but someone is our legislative liaison.
I think it's me.
I think So would it make sense to reach out to get from our elected representatives from a committee perspective, get them to give us their thoughts on where this is going and
Yeah.
a form to air our
Yeah.
concerns, make sure I'm happy to join you in that
Sure.
discussion.
And I'm thinking maybe a little differently. I mean, so a lot of these big player bills, you generally start in the House. So I'm curious if this is just the Senate version of a House bill.
I just sent it to Dr. Sullivan. It's in a joint committee right now.
It's in joint committee,
It's in joint
so it
committee.
can still be edited.
It's got HB 575 is the House one.
Okay, so this is a perfect
579,
time to
sorry.
talk to Patrick about some of the amendments you might be interested in. At this point in the legislative process, everything should be on the table. So if these are things you think strongly about, give a couple of paragraphs and
Expectations are great.
Yeah.
It's the
Absolutely, no
way.
problem.
it's so hard to fix after it gets passed.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So-
again, this is where the sausage is made. So now's the time to speak up on things like that.
So we'll, we'll, to make that most effective.
Yeah.
We'll need from you the specific areas and
Yep.
specific concerns,
Mhm.
ideally with examples.
Yep.
Just doing this in the federal level, the rulemaking side, that's usually
Right.
what works well. So we can coordinate.
Yeah.
But, I thank you for bringing this to our attention, putting it on the radar.
No, thank you, I appreciate it. I do have a question though, because you know more about all of this process than I do. So some of the areas that I have concern around are that there's really no set criteria, so it's a little nebulous. And so is that something that gets dealt with at the table when you're trying to create a bill?
So-
Or does that then default to, okay, now Department of Ed, you have been charged with so. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little of both.
Okay,
You may not be surprised in government that these sort of, I'll call it unfunded mandates, but they happen all the time.
right,
So this is why it's important to this is where legislators are really very good, is that they should be very approachable to make it better for everyone.
right,
And so sometimes they will just mandate the Department of Ed to go figure it out, make the rules,
Yeah.
implement the programs. This one seems rather specific to me. So
yeah,
somebody very interested in education, highly likely in the Senate side.
okay,
That person's probably going to be good to go talk to too. So he's given a great deal of thought to this.
right,
If it's an initiative of the administration, the current administration, they would have offered it in the House. And then, because it's easier to find sponsors.
right.
So you can edit either one, especially while it's in conference.
Mhm.
So you can get to both Joan and to Patrick and say, hey, we have some thoughts.
Okay,
These are exactly the kind of asks you can ask your legislator to help you with. And they don't think every day about the stuff that we think about every day.
sure, well, they're not.
So they're not living it. So they will take this very seriously, especially when people also don't ask them for money.
Right.
So this is
Right.
this is a good exercise to kind of politely say, hey, we've read it, we've given some thoughts to it, and this is what it is. The calendar won't end until June, but you probably need to move sooner rather than later to ask them for specifics. So I
Okay.
would say in the next 2 weeks ought to be.
All right, I will touch base because I know that I offered to go meet with Patrick.
Yeah.
We're kind of parsing out who's going to do what out
Yeah.
of that group. So I offered to go talk to
Good.
Patrick about this, so I'll follow up. and see what's
It could
going
be
on.
as clear as specific language. These are our thoughts. And by the way,
Yeah.
we brought with us some specific language for your consideration.
That's
Okay.
usually very powerful, but
Okay, I
I'm
appreciate
cognizant
it.
that we
Thank
still
you.
have
Sorry.
some meat on the agenda
Sorry, thank you
afterwards.
for that.
Any other comments from committee members?
No.
Hearing none. I'll turn it over to Ms. Barbara Swanka, our Director of Student Services, for an update and some other information.
Thank you.
Barbara, let me give you the power here.
Okay, before I actually go into my presentation, because I was looking at the phone, I want to share with the committee members and also with Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Scollins, and Mrs. Something that just came through. You may or may not know, Attorney Paige Tobin with Murphy Lemire. Murphy is our legal counsel for special education. She is the legal counsel for a good number of districts in the Commonwealth. She often advises to Russell Johnston and DESE, and she presents 3 times a year at the 3 professional developments that the Massachusetts Administrator for Special Education put on. We are members of ACE and I bring the team chairs whenever they have one of their professional development days. They're very worthwhile. This Massachusetts ACE is the lead association representing special education administrators in Massachusetts. It provides a plethora of services, but its real purpose and its mission is to provide leadership and advocating for appropriate provision of services to all children and youth in Massachusetts. And while we were talking, a text came through from Paige and she said, I have just put your name forward to be on the board of ACE. And, you know, would you be willing to speak with them? So whatever comes of it, comes of it.
Oh, nice.
Just wanted to
exciting.
share that since I was looking at my phone and it came through.
Be a great honor.
Wonderful.
But I do have the power.
You do, you have the power.
So, per usual, I am going to start with my data for you, and you actually have copies of these. I put them in your packet this evening when I got here. This reflects March of 2023, a very long month in the school year. And you can see from the number of meetings that we did, we were very busy during the very long month. Both the elementary and the secondary level held 16 annual reviews apiece. And I held one out of district annual reviews totaling 33 of those types of meetings. There was only one reevaluation at the elementary level, but 6 at the secondary level and 1 out of district, totaling 8. And then the really interesting part, at the elementary level, there were 8 initial evaluations. 5 of those came through MTSS, all of which were found eligible. None of those came through parent or Cohasset Public School parents, but 3 of them did come through non-Cohasset Public School parents, which means, as you know, they either came from private school or from early intervention. Correct. And all of those were found eligible. At the secondary level, there was only 1 initial evaluation meeting, which came through MTSS and was found eligible. I went over 1 independent evaluation in our out of district, totaling 51 total meetings for the month of March, which, yes, was quite a few. In addition to this data, I heard last month when we were talking, interest in our surveys. So I took a look at our surveys, which go out with every single IEP to parents. Over the course of this year, we have had 44 returns of those surveys to date. Out of those, and parents can either strongly agree, feel neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree with topics such as it was a well-organized meeting, there was sufficient time, the evaluation was timely, I felt listened to, I understood, I was a part of the team, my concerns and questions were welcomed, recommendations were expressed clearly, I fully understand and was fully satisfied, so on and so forth. Out of those 44 returns to date, 34 parents strongly agreed in every single area. Another 4 parents agreed or strongly agreed. 3 parents agreed in every single area. 1 parent was neutral. 1 parent fluctuated between feeling neutral and disagreeing, and 1 parent strongly disagreed. But out of those 44 surveys, that was our breakdown of numbers in terms of response to those surveys. So that was that information. We had a wonderful CPAC meeting just yesterday. CPAC and the PSO partnered and asked us to present through more of a student services lens than a special education lens on MTSS, it being really a general education and building-based initiative. All of the principals came and participated in the meeting. And I presented the slideshow that I had presented here last month, but then all of the principals were able to speak to MTSS in their buildings as an overarching initiative, if you will, for all students and the services and strategies that students can receive, whether they come to the MTSS team or not. I think they really expressed themselves, very clearly. Parents had some good questions, but also not too many questions. They really seemed to understand the process and how everything was rolling out at each of the different levels, as well as the alignment between the different schools, which is very strong, but also, how you address those particular age levels in each school and have a little flexibility to do that. And we got a response from CPAC today. Good morning. Thank you all so much for speaking at yesterday's MTSS presentation. We have already received some positive feedback from families on this presentation. We look forward to more opportunities to collaborate like this. Thank you again. So it was really a very nice.
That's great.
And well-attended meeting.
I think a timely topic and good to have the principals there and Doug Collins.
Yes, it was wonderful. And one of the other topics that I did say I was going to speak to this evening was I was going to speak a little bit about attendance, because I heard at the last meeting that that was an area of interest. And certainly Dr. Scollins can chime in with me here. Daily attendance is obviously very important to a student's success, and missing a significant number of days obviously can have a really detrimental effect on students, both in terms of academics and in terms of social development. And, there are some requirements and actually laws around what we need to do around attendance. And one of those is that we have to notify families when there is a certain amount of attendance. So our district, as well as districts all across the Commonwealth, send out letters, when students have accrued 5 absences, when students have accrued 10 absences, when students have accrued 15 absences.
So is it required elements by law?
They
by
are.
chapter?
Share.
Can we take that down?
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
flash. Thank you.
But also
And you
so
wanna
they
see
can
me up
see
there.
us.
Well, just so I don't have a seizure, because it's like,
Yes.
It's not flashing at home, just so you know.
I know, but I'm
We're
worried
at
about me
risk.
in this particular situation.
This isn't about us.
I know. I was gonna say no.
So as
Miss
Dr.
Law.
Sullivan was saying, it is a Massachusetts general law, and we are required to notify parents or guardians of a student who has missed a certain number of days within a school year. I have to say, we accept medical or any documentation that can excuse an absence, and we recognize that. But we also recognize that an absence is an absence, that even excused absences, children are not there to learn. And we just have to keep that in our mind. And we certainly excuse them, and they do not affect students in terms of, whatever it is that they may need in terms of, especially as they get older, credits and so on and so forth. But that is important. One of the things that I wanted to share with you, since for our district, these letters are new this year, is I wanted to share with you, and I'm sorry, I'm going to share my screen again, what this is looking like across the schools this year.
Felt so good.
Yeah, a moment. If this keeps up next meeting, I'll give it a glass, sunglasses.
We'll go back to the owl.
This,
Yeah, but
Yes.
not a.
So what you can see here is you can see, and actually, I don't think you can see the whole thing.
it's like being faced by the paparazzi. They're
What are you
coming at you.
No, you're not. It's at the bottom. At the bottom, you can see that the first is the Joseph Osgood School. And to date, if you look at this orange line, it shows you the total number of absences to date, which was 161. And those were all of the days. And I'm sorry, not all of days, all of the letters that went out.
161 letters for 5 days.
The,
No,
total
just
letters.
total letters,
Total
okay.
letters.
Total, oh, sorry.
So the yellow shows you the 5 days. So
Oh, I
123 letters went out for students who missed 5
So
days at the Joseph,
123 students missed 5 days.
at the Joseph Osgood. And those are for just the 5-day letters. For the 10-day letters, 30 letters went out to students who had missed 10 days. And 8 letters went out for students who had missed 15 days at the Osgood.
And these are unexcused absences.
No, there's just-
Any absence.
Absence,
Just
period.
unexcused. Well, the letter that came to my house. Well, just for
It lists all absences.
It does list all.
Oh, it does?
It does.
Yeah, it includes the number of, yeah.
It does.
Oh, okay, all right, you're right, I'm sorry about that, yeah.
And it is important to recognize what are excused and unexcused absences, but it's also.
So remember, chapter 76, it does require that we notify them if they have unexcused.
Yes.
Well, but again, we're making the point that they need to be at
Yeah.
school.
They're all listed.
And just so you are aware, the letter defines an excused absences in it. The letter does say 5 or more days unexcused in a school year. So it does read as if these are unexcused absences in the letters.
The letter says unexcused.
It does.
Yes, correct.
It does.
Okay.
So let's just go back for a second.
Yeah, so let's go
They're
back.
getting letters if they have 5 unexcused absences.
Yes, and then 10 unexcused.
Correct.
And then 15
We don't send letters if the absence is excused.
So if you have 5 excused absences, you don't get a letter.
You don't get a letter.
Correct.
You shouldn't get a
You
letter.
shouldn't.
All right. Now, you might by accident get one if one got through, like, so let's say it didn't get checked and the student had a doctor's note for 3 days
Yep.
because they had to, or whatever.
So remember, part of the reason I'm sending them is a checks and balance. So it's to make sure that you get the letter
Yes.
that you say, no, my child was,
Yes.
and then you can excuse those.
Right, you get the note.
And that is in the
But
letter
that's-
also, because
that's
the
part of
letter
the
also
process,
says.
Because we're trying to
Yes.
make sure that people are in school, because you can't teach an empty seat, right?
Right.
So,
So
but
in
we're
the
also
letter
being
says-
mindful of excuses that are relevant and legitimate, and that we should be cognizant of and understanding.
So I think what brought this to, and I think this came from something that I was working with or thinking about. And I guess what I'm primarily interested in is what is your reaction to these numbers? Are these high? Are these low? Is this a problem? Is this going to impact the quality of our education for our students? I guess, are these higher than prior years? Because and I learned this from you all, my wondering
Yes.
is that in a post-COVID world, people are taking their school attendance less seriously. I'd be interested, my wife was a full attendance, K through 12, never met perfect attendance. That wasn't me. But I'm concerned, I'm wondering if we are seeing people be a little more cavalier with absences from school than they have in prior years. And so that's what I really wanted to hear from this data. You said we've got this now. I guess, what are your reactions as administrators? And is this something we need to focus on?
Yes.
And so,
I think we do. I think they're high. And I say that mindful that families have the right to do things and that are excused absences.
yeah.
But I do think as a general observation, they are high. I think it just makes us as a community be really mindful about the importance of having children in school as much as possible if they're not ill or need to stay out for illness sake. And I just think it's something that we work together and try to figure out ways to, if the student is missing school, why are we missing school? And is there something that we can do to better communicate the reasons to be in school? So the general, kind of a long-winded answer, but the general observation is that they're high. I don't think they're atypical to what I've seen in Cohasset since I've been here in terms of absent rates. Is it higher than other communities? I think it's higher than some. But I do think it would be a nice focus for us as a community within the realm of reasonableness. I think we need to be reasonable about why people are missing school, but parents know, and you can help your child get a better education by making sure that they're in school when they need to be in school and when they should be in school, and know that we'll be understanding on the times when that isn't the case.
But if your teachers are constantly, I'm sorry, if students are constantly out and teachers are constantly trying to catch them up, then
It's a burden.
there's lost momentum for all students around gaining their academics. So that's where it becomes
So
an issue.
from my perspective,
And-
go ahead.
When I look at it through student services lens also, and this is an important part of these letters, we want to work cooperatively with families and really try to support families around things like student absences. And when you are noticing absenteeism, particularly around like grades 3 to 5, that tends to be chronic, it really does build on itself and escalate in middle school and in high school. There are a lot of studies that show this. It can, get into, school avoidance issues and things like that. So from my lens, when I'm thinking about things like school avoidance supports that families may need around attendance, things like this, these aren't so much to say to parents, by the way, your child has been out. It's more to kind of say, you know what, and these things do say them right here. The 10-day letter, please call to see if we can arrange a meeting to discuss how we can support you and your child in school attendance. And what can we do in terms of other supports and strategies, to help you around this, which some families, may need. And, they're just really trying to get their kids to school and they don't know what else to do.
I'm appreciative of that perspective. But there's another angle that I'm more worried about, that I think is probably more prevalent in our town, which is people opting not to go to school, and people opting to take a trip on an off week, people opting to do that. And so I think one of the things we should think about as a school and as administration is, how do we better communicate some of those adverse consequences to families? So they know it's not just, hey, your kid's missed 2 days of school. It's also slowing the class down. It's also doing these things. So I think there's some education and some outreach that we might be able to do if we're thinking that. I'm interested in other perspectives.
Oh, I just think there's a balance. I think, sometimes it makes sense to take your kids out of school and do something as a family. I think it's different if it's happening every week.
Yeah, and I don't mean to suggest that I want to shame people who do that.
Right.
I do.
No, I know. No one wants to shame anybody.
And-
I just also think like with a 5-day, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, like 5 days of being sick throughout a school year, you're not sick enough to go to get a doctor's note. You're just trying to keep your kid home so they don't fester
I
and
think
keep
more
everyone
people
else sick.
Absolutely.
Like 5 is a very low number.
5 in October is a bigger deal. than it
Correct.
Right. Then
Correct. And I understand that it's a state mandate
requirement.
and these have to
Yep.
go out. And so when you're getting a 5 at this point in the year, it's like, well, you're probably just making
Being
sure your
responsible.
kid's staying home and not going to school sick. But yeah, I think that the message about how can we help make sure that you're prioritizing education, it's patterns that are important.
It is.
Right?
You're
Like,
absolutely right.
that's what's important.
There was a comment from someone.
Oh, Mr. Carter, do you have a comment?
Sure.
You got a hand up.
I'm curious, are you hearing from families on the last round of letters?
Well, I think it's just,
That would really be building.
this is new for us. Okay, we haven't, although quite frankly, this is something that's been required. This administration came in COVID, and we weren't gonna push this in COVID. It was kind of the wrong time to do this. But we did have to get back to following the law.
Yeah.
So we instituted that. It hadn't been happening in Cohasset, and now it is. So I think that's having gone through this years ago in another district, it's a culture shock, and it's not, and as a parent myself, you get that letter, and I agree with Ms. St. Ange, when you have to get the letter, and it's like, it's May, I mean, it's not, but you also balance that, and you realize after a while, you realize this is a compulsory thing that it has to happen, we have to send these out, so you balance that and you understand the role of that particular letter. It doesn't have as much impact on you. And you don't take it, I mean, I remember when I first started getting the letter, I actually took them a little personally.
Yeah.
And that's a totally natural reaction. There's nothing personal about this except an effort to fulfill the law and to work with families who might be having absence issues with their child. That's really all we're trying to do. And eventually, I think we'll get used to this and understand and then move towards being more communicative in a positive way.
And I would agree, having been in a district, that I remember the first year that we did it, really prior to
Same thing.
the first year's, you know, it's hard. to
Yeah.
get.
Let's go to the public comment.
You want to read it? Go ahead. You can go ahead. So, Tony Velasca, if you could actually type in your address too, that would be helpful. Thank you. As a parent, some absences are due to reducing travel costs on off-peak travel days, just wanted to mention. Yes. that is correct.
And those are valid reasons to make a decision. It's a question of making sure that not everybody's making all those decisions at the same time to such a point that we just want to keep an eye on making sure our kids are getting the education that they deserve. So thank you for the comment.
So we got a letter but then we were like, didn't add up for us, right? So we're like, okay, is our kid skipping school and we don't know about it? So we had to really think about it. But when we went back and looked, there was some medical, some were going to look at colleges.
That's right.
You know, I mean, just like,
So you can get
if the colleges would get on board, like, why have it on a Wednesday? These kids are supposed to be in school somewhere else. So some of it, like, once we understood what we were reading, it was much more realistic to us that seemed like very consistent with our planning. If we could avoid any of it, we would have, right? But I'm glad that we're at least there's some consistency, because I think it will help families understand better the importance about attendance. And
as you
Yeah.
mentioned, at high school level, there's a credit element to this too.
Yeah.
You can only be absent a certain amount of times and you lose credit. So it is important to get that sort of pattern of making sure that you're aware of the thing. That is a question.
Great. Any other comments on that? And I think with that, Mr. Wong, I think with that, you're closed.
I am.
Excellent.
Is that my presentation down the court?
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
50.
The what? I'm sorry, sir.
Down the court.
Thank you.
Address.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So we'll move on to agenda block F, budget resources and governance. And I'll turn it over to Susan Owen for our budget and finance monthly update.
Shall I give you the power there? You now have the power.
I have the power.
Isn't there a cartoon in there?
Yeah. So
So I'll be very brief, not a lot going on in the month of March. We are 75% through our school year, and our budget is about 69.74%. So we're still running a little bit ahead of the game, which is great. There was a change to our special education tuitions over the last few months. There was an increase in the deficit, the amount of $29,825.
actually, do we need this up for people at home? 'Cause given we
I
have
don't
this-
think.
Yeah.
Given that we have it in hard copy and given the
Yes.
strobe effect that we're facing here at the.
I'm sorry to make a big deal of it. I think it's getting worse and it's bothering me.
It's not-
Sorry.
At first, it was somewhat entertaining,
Thank you, Barb.
It's starting to hurt my head.
No,
Yeah, same.
no, it's making me.
so let's just go through the paper side.
Sure.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr.
So
Chair.
as I was saying, the special education, there was a change. We had a student who was outplaced to a collaborative school for the remainder of the school year. So there was an increase to the deficit in the amount of $29,825. Still not concerned with $97,000 deficit when in past years we've had a couple $100,000 in deficits. Again, the elementary school, Osgood, Deer Hill, 64% utilized budget, 63%, in the middle and high, middle was 62% through their budget, and high school is 69. So again, we're all below the 75% percentile, which is good. The grants, we did have a very slight change in our grant funding. Sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of work
Because it's a
for
lot of work to go through.
$68.
So in our special education grant, 240, they gave us an additional $1,577. And our early childhood special education grant, they gave us an additional $39. And our Title I, they gave us an additional $67.
What adds up?
And we did have an additional grant, which was a Metco supplemental, sped supplemental grant, which amounts to $11,135, which was a new grant for us. And we're gonna spend that on, I believe, some transportation and some other aspects of our summer program, extended school year program.
Yeah.
For our Metcos.
Yeah, correct.
Excellent.
Paul's not here, but we did this based on Paul's request on our revolving accounts. We had one account, which is for free gifts, which lumped in the middle school, the Deer Hill, and the Osgood Elementary School revolving account, so we have broken that out now. Middle school revolving has $640. Deer Hill revolving has $4,101, and Osgood revolving has $3,878. A lot of those are from like Box Top collections and Life Touch, and sales at the is it the Spirit? They sell, I'm not sure what it's called, but they're selling the t-shirts and stuff upstairs.
Spirit, yeah.
Is it Spirit? Okay.
Spirit view.
Yeah. Thought it was Spirit here.
Uh-huh.
So we broke that down. We'll continue to break down the rest of the accounts, but at least have broken down those. No concerns with the revolving account. Have not had any changes to our FTEs or our head counts. Electric and gas, no concerns. Running very similar to past years. Enrollment data is included here, so each month I'll give the updated enrollment information, and then I've got it running month to month so you can see the comparison.
Great, this is great.
Some of the highlights for the last month, so the fitness center, middle high school fitness center equipment and all the flooring have been removed. The plan is that we will be painting the fitness center over the upcoming break. The flooring, the new flooring has arrived. We're not quite sure if it's going to be installed or not because there's still a question about the ramp and removing the ramp that's in there. So we have to, the building inspector came out and we have to one, get a schematic drawing of what's inside there, because I think there's electrical in the ramp, and two, it was an occupancy issue. So based on occupancy, we can either, if it's less than 50, we can just take it out. If it's more than 50, we have to have a second egress, which is fine because we have the weight room right to the left of it. We just need to put an exit sign and we're fine. But I'm not so sure that that's going to happen for break because it's only 2 days away. We did post for the part-time fitness center supervisor and the part-time building common supervisor. To allow both areas to be accessible 2 days per week. We're considering Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I believe that what was in the posting.
Yes.
From 3 to 6 p.m. 3 to 6, we have had applicants. We just have not finalized anything.
Right. That's excellent. Be nice to have for the spring and moving forward.
In the food service, good news, we now have an assistant director of food service and culinary specialist who has already begun to implement new menu items and to get some of the specials down to the elementary level, and is working on preparing more local fresh ingredients and has a multitude of daily specials going on. Every time I go upstairs, there's almost too many choices, to the point that I can't make it. Like, I'll go up and eat. I don't know what to make. I don't know what to do. I'm like, can I have like a smorgasbord?
Like too many good choices is the problem.
Too many, they're great choices. I mean, they're just great choices.
Should say even at the, not to digress too much, but at the basketball game against the Wizards, they were in full display of, it's lovely.
I mean, for example, today they had barbecued, boneless barbecued rib sandwiches. They had grilled cheese and chicken noodle soup or salad. They had meatball subs. They had grilled pita with ham, turkey, and Swiss. They had chicken. They had mac and cheese, and then the normal everyday options. So it It was very difficult to
Great.
decide.
That's great.
We're just gonna start moving that progress down to the elementary levels, which I think she will.
Yes, yeah.
Middle high school
Like,
is pretty great, but just the elementary though is still.
like I know
think,
today,
Developing.
the rib sandwich was offered at the elementary schools today as a special. And they're gonna get some signage and stuff going on down there.
No, she's gonna do it. She's just super enthusiastic. Just like,
So that's all great news. They finalized ordering, what type of furniture they want for their promo lobbies. They got some student participation on what the students would like to see. So there's gonna be some, the high top tables. They want a couple little study areas up in their promo lobbies. So we're gonna make it more look like a little, a lounge type area with study areas, which would be great. So they're gonna order that this week. Preschool, just the update, school committee voted on March 29th, as you know, to increase the preschool tuition from 2,800 to 3,200 per participant. And athletics, Brad has completed the new track and turf, and our athletic teams are already playing out in the fields. From central office, we can see the students out there on the fields every day, which is great to see. And at this point in the year, again, no major concerns regarding the budget. We're on target, we're ahead of the game. And we'll just be watching over the next few months, how we end the year.
Great. Thank you, Rose. There's Owen, any comments?
I just have a Paul Kearney adjacent comment because he's not here. I feel like he has to be represented. And maybe it's not in existence anymore, but in the taking my kids to practices and coming in and out of the Wizards game, the old equipment from the
Yeah, it was right out there,
playroom
wasn't
was
it?
just right out in that.
It's all scrap, so we're waiting for the
Okay.
scrap metal.
So that's gonna be
person to come.
removed.
Yes.
It's quite unsightly.
Yes, it's
Then,
not-
like, it wasn't even good enough to be in the weight room and now it's outside and I felt like,
Right by the
why is
front
it still
door.
here? I've seen it for now basketball season into spring sports and usually that stuff doesn't bother me.
So,
Like I'm pretty tolerant of it,
Yeah.
but then I thought, wow, that's still there. So that's gonna be removed?
That should be gone.
It should be, indeed.
Will be, it will be. It will be.
Is there a timeline?
It will be gone.
Okay.
yes. it's not-
Yeah.
So it's.
We're making progress, we're making progress.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was like a schedule, like kid with a truck is coming to get it.
Don't beat around the bush. What are you trying to get to there?
Unfortunately, can't move it with a leaf
I've only
blower.
got so many meetings left. I've gotta know when
Keep
is this
moving.
stuff gonna be done?
So,
Okay.
so just to confirm, it's not a permanent fixture.
It is not a problem.
Okay.
It's on the way.
Okay,
It's being scrapped. This was a scrap
that's
person to get.
terrific.
Moving into your driveway.
Yeah, yeah. 107 Sawyer's.
We were hoping someone was.
The St. Anne's Memorial
We
Gym
were hoping someone was
equipment.
gonna steal it, but they won't even steal it.
Steal it.
Oh,
Okay, thank you. I just,
You're welcome.
Paul's not here and it's outside the
That is
building
a-
and it doesn't look good
That's a
and.
very, very Paul Kearney
know,
adjacent comment,
thanks.
so I appreciate that.
The other item that I have to talk about is capital. I know that, the capital has voted and made a decision. I think I sent an email out. Out of the 1.3 million, they allowed us $426,121. And I can tell you, like the bus lease, we had upped it to ask for the full bus lease. Because the past few years, they've given us 90,000 towards the lease. So I know it's a question of not me to let's ask for the whole thing. They still only gave us the 90,000. They.
So that means we need to re-ask for next year?
We.
Oh, wait,
I'm
what?
sorry.
Yeah, so,
So we have built into the budget the $50-something thousand difference.
Yeah.
Each year. So
okay,
yes, so each year, they're probably gonna continue to give us the 90,000.
so we absorb, we get from capital $90,000 and we absorb another 50.
Yes.
Yep.
The second item that they approved was the replacement of our aging Chromebooks, which is 540 of them. They did agree to replace all the 28 smart projector panels within the middle school.
That's
For $155,161. They voted to replace the iPads at the Dayton and Oddscould, which is approximately 253 iPads and cases and charging stations for $93,960. And then they voted to continue to replace the furniture, adding a new, also adding a new grade classroom So Deer Hill, they allowed the $35,000 in furniture requests. And everything else, plus parking lots, continued retiling of the Deer Hill classrooms, fitness center, the asphalt roads and scoreboards, all those things, will pass.
Passed on.
That's
Didn't
all.
do it.
Did not do it.
Any comments, questions from the committee?
To say that's why we need a special purpose stabilization fund,
I was gonna say,
because that's, I mean, you know, I get it, everyone's requesting money from the same pool, but you know, I mean, the bus lot, we get no money, I mean, we're hemorrhaging cash on that. You know, parking the buses because the town isn't Baylor, I'm this is like so discouraging. You know, there's like
Right.
13 items, or 5 of them are either funded or partially funded. And, yeah, I don't know if there's anything.
and they
we
didn't
can
even
about
do a
it,
walkthrough.
but It's, yeah, right.
Since I'm
And we
sure-
didn't, and we also didn't get through our full presentation, like, because we, you know, we want to sit there for hours and hours. So the idea was to come back and we were never invited back.
Some of these could be debatably not school cost either.
That's true,
The
that's true,
asphalt
that's
road.
true, or painting lines in our parking lot, which I've heard is recently something that we're gonna have to do, pay for ourselves if we wanna do that, like, so, I don't know, it's a very discouraging topic.
Well, channeling that discouragement to positive momentum, I think I'll just harken back to our earlier agenda item. This is why we need people to come to town meeting, to show a great deal of support for our schools so that we can validate that the town prioritizes some of these things that are currently showing up as zeros, enough to put actual dollar amount numbers next to them. And we will make do with what we have been approved now, and we will work with our town officials to try and augment some of these things and get some of this stuff through other ways, but this is what we have. So, any other questions, comments from committee?
May I circle back to the expanding of food options? I will not touch the equipment again. I'm curious,
We are coming to, we have a food service
Oh,
agenda item,
just
do
because
not,
we'd already talked about, okay, I'll wait.
because we do have a couple voting items.
That's fine, that's fine.
On the board. So next one, Dr. Sullivan, we have South Shore Educational Collaborative.
Yes,
You want to be a board member, or you've been invited to be a board member, and you need some approval from this committee to do so, correct?
yes, I am a board member, and I need approval from this committee to stay on the board.
Okay,
So just so the South Shore Educational Collaborative, for those of you who don't know, it provides appropriate programming for students who have special education programs who may not have programming here that fits them. And we do, it varies, but we do have students currently there, and we do at times have more students than we currently have now there. And it is it's an excellent school. It's a main campus located in Hingham. There are 12 towns in the area that are member districts, which means we get a discounted rate. And then we also have a say in the governance of the school, where basically they're board of board members. And right now I'm the vice chairperson on the board. But the member towns, just so you know, are Hull, Cohasset, Braintree, Randolph, Marshfield, Milton, Norwell, Quincy, Situate, Hingham, Weymouth, and Whitman Hanson is the newest. So every year we need a vote to keep me on.
So the vice chair doesn't have much sway anyway.
Well, yeah.
unless position, it's an honorary position, just enjoy it.
Unless the chair isn't there. That happened to me once. Judy Kuhn from, she wasn't there and I had to run the meeting.
You got a
I
taste.
felt empowered.
So what you need from this committee is a vote to appoint you as our representative member?
Yes,
Okay,
to appoint me as a board member.
excellent. Do we have a question? We have a question.
I'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to second Mr. Carr's motion.
Would you like to hear his motion first?
I know what he's gonna move
The
because.
vice chairman should
Yes.
have a little pep, no, sorry.
Mike.
No, I'd like to make a motion that we ask our superintendent to remain on the board of the collaborative.
Second, do I have a second?
Yes, I anticipated that's what he was gonna make a
Okay,
motion.
just for the record,
All
we're
right.
just gonna make sure we're voting on the motion, because he could have gone anywhere with that.
Could have.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Congratulations. You are now appointed as our representative on the South Shore Educational Cooperative.
Thank you.
Collaborative. So, excellent. The next thing we're going to do is a technical one. Just given the technical nature of our MSBA submission, this was approved by the select board. The MSBA submission is in your materials. It's this document here. What I'm going to just do is read into the record the same resolutions we did in our last, or ask someone to make these resolutions that we did in our last meeting, but with the dates included. And so it's a complete, and with the materials in front of you, we can credibly make the resolution just as a matter of course. So with that said, what I'd look for is in connection with our MSBA SOI submission, which will be made tomorrow, I'd look for a resolution to the following effect. Having convened in an open meeting on April 12th, 2023, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of Cohasset, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority a statement of interest form dated April 13th, 2023, for the Cohasset Middle School, located at 143 Pond Street, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. 2, elimination of severe overcrowding. And then I think it's 5, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state approved local requirements. Actually, I'm going to revise it. That was 7. 5 is replacement, renovation, or modernization of the school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other town funding commitment, any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Cohasset to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So do I have a motion to that effect with all those words? Motion by Vice Chair McClellan. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Carr. Don't believe this has to be, let's just do a roll call just in case. Mr. Carr?
Aye.
Ms. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. McClellan?
Aye.
And Mr. Dial? Aye. So that, the middle school one is, we're going to have to go through that exercise just one more time.
That was the high school, correct?
For the, that was the middle school.
That was the middle school.
That was the middle school. So then we're going to do that one more time with the high school. I would look for a motion to the effect of having convened in an open meeting on April 12th, 2023, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of Cohasset, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 13th, 2023, for the Cohasset High School, located at 143 Pond Street, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. 2, elimination of existing severe overcrowding. 5, replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. And hereby further specifically acknowledge that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Cohasset to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. McClellan, a second from Ms. St. Ange. We'll go around the room. Mr. Carr?
Carr, aye.
Mr. Ms. St. Ange?
Aye.
Mr. McClellan?
Aye.
And Mr. Dial? Aye. The motion is passed with all members voting in favor of the president. And therefore, Dr. Sullivan, you are clear to submit our statement of interest tomorrow.
Thank you
And
very much.
I know that we've done some electronic signatures and we are ready to go in that regard. I don't know if there's one's outstanding, but we can
There's
cross that bridge.
yeah, we have to sign a document that I have to upload that says this just happened.
Yep.
So you have to do it tomorrow.
And it did happen.
Yes.
Okay. Next agenda item is food service. Ms. St. Ange, sorry.
Does it, you need just the chairman signs on behalf of the board? Okay.
Just the chair signs, and it's, there's a form I have here, but I have an erroneous date. I have March 15th on it.
Okay.
So we'll change the date.
Yep. And I'll be around tomorrow if you need to come by.
Yeah. It's good.
All right, food service, Ms. Downs, you were going to make a
Oh,
food
I was
service
just
list.
curious as a follow-up to the expansion of the menu and that kind of trickling down to the other schools. So it's currently this rib sandwich today. This is available at Deer Hill, you said, and other schools. And so how are they sharing that information with children? Like if the kids, how do kids find out that there's a exciting menu?
Before they go, so that they know
Correct.
there might be
So like,
something
for
that they want,
example,
so they're
you
bringing-
said that, and so I texted my husband and said, what did the girls have for lunch today? Because I don't make lunch at school time. And I said, did anyone get the rib sandwich? And quote, Claire St. Ange, there is no evidence of this rib sandwich. So I'm just curious how kids are finding out. She's an early lunch, 3rd grade, 5th grade. I could understand it being gone by then. I'm just curious, like, are you just like curiously like, oh, what's that in there? How do kids find out?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I can ask.
But it's part of her job. She's working on the,
Yeah.
so on the signage and the, you know, promotion of like involvement in the food service, like
Yeah.
understanding of health awareness, things like that. So that we'll see more of that. But you raise a good point.
Like
saying,
morning announcements?
about not only that, but also before they go, we
Yeah.
need to work on the online menu so that you don't just have the main item, because if you're talking, hey, do you want to bring lunch today or buy?
Yeah.
Well, if it's only like mac and cheese on there and
Yeah.
you don't have the specials,
Right.
it would be helpful to develop specials ahead of time, like at least on like a weekly basis maybe,
Right.
or like a couple days, I don't know, I mean, so they can update that and let
Yeah.
people know they
Or
are.
are they announced in the morning? I'm not. in-
But then by that time, they're already there and they either have their lunch.
They've already
ready-
brought their lunch.
But like my children never bring lunch because as I said, I don't make lunch. So they're gonna eat what's there, but if there's a rib sandwich or whatever delicious option,
Yeah.
like it's nice to know because not every child feels
Yeah.
comfortable saying, oh, is there another option today? They're just going through and taking their
Right,
Yeah.
no, that's a great
Stuff.
idea, and I mentioned that somewhat today, like
Yeah.
how, even for myself in this building,
Yes,
like on the menus, it doesn't tell you what
Right.
all those specials
Right.
are.
right.
And I think, you know, it's something she can work on, she's only been in the position of lead.
Oh, yeah.
12 hours.
Yeah.
So, right, so.
This wasn't an attack. I'm
Oh,
just
no, no, no.
curious because I am
Because I have
not
the same
there.
question about here, so, absolutely. I think she's just gotta get, you know, she's gotta get her schedule,
Oh, yeah.
and her plan.
Any other food service related updates?
Can I go back to something, just because I'm sorry to do this, but just so I don't have to watch the phone. For the high school, did you make the motion? And you
Yes.
seconded? Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
Lydia seconded.
Lydia
the high
seconded.
school.
High school,
Lydia
I think
seconded
middle
for the
school.
high school.
Yes.
And for the middle school, I knew it was
Ted
Craig.
seconded.
Craig,
I moved on both of them.
Greg's on both.
Ted seconded middle school.
Yep.
Lydia seconded high school.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta put that in the.
Yeah,
The
that's not what
document.
happened.
All right.
Next agenda item is, transportation. Any new updates there?
No.
Keep working on this transponder stuff.
Just no
Um,
fun. Working on.
So transportation, should we start at some point soon? Trying to figure out another location for the buses?
So that is up in the air right now,
Okay,
because we obviously didn't get the capital funding for the work to be done at Deer Hill, which is what we had hoped.
Yeah.
But I do understand there's something else in the works, but I don't know.
Okay.
So I mean, I can speak to that.
Okay.
So, the assistant town manager was working with MBTA, at least having conversations about parking the buses, down the train walk. Yeah, for a fee.
Yeah.
Certainly not as significant as what we're saying,
$4,000 a month.
10. It's
Right.
10, it's like 10,000.
No, it is.
The year.
No,
Let's
not
do
for me.
finish and then we
Okay,
can
all
ask
right,
questions.
So the conversation's been going back and forth. It has not been confirmed or agreed to. The concerns were, one, the visibility of the buses. Down there, they're like sitting ducks by themselves for anybody to vandalize if they so choose to, versus where they are now, where they're very visible, but it's, you know, it's very costly. There's also, no providing of any type of facilities. At the MBTA, there's no bathrooms or anything for them. So yes, it would be a savings cost-wise. but I don't think it's any better or worse than what they have right now.
And what would the savings be? So,
30,000?
For the year?
Yes.
2,000
For the year.
savings?
what are we paying now and what would we pay in the MBTA model?
I don't know exactly what the conversation Michelle's been having with MBTA, because they haven't firmed anything up.
Yep.
It was just discussion. I know we pay $3,500 a month for where they are right now.
No bathroom?
They have a bathroom where they are right now.
Okay, they did, but still,
Still,
that's a lot of money. I mean, I know it was a lot of
And
money.
I recall a conversation, I think it was somewhere in the magnitude of $10,000 for the year at the MBTA.
Yes, that was,
So that's, I think it's worth continuing to explore and understand the pros and cons of that. This parking lot situation, bus parking, we have to solve this issue. We need to put our buses somewhere and they can't cost us roughly $42,000 a year anymore.
Right, but we should have our own parking lot.
correct. And I know the conversation, about the parking lot at Deer Hill, the numbers came back from, the numbers came back to the assistant town manager that instead of like a $200,000 project, it would be a minimum of $400,000 project. Which is why we haven't had further discussion on that.
It cuts into the cost savings.
Alright.
All right. Report from School Facilities Committee. I think we just validated the SOI, so I don't know if there's anything going on the School Facilities Committee.
no, just that we were shut down on the feasibility study until next fall, hopefully.
Any reports from our school committee, subcommittees and or liaisons?
I might just, so a number of us met with the select board about school security matters. I think one of the things that we need to do better is to let the community know we are on top of school security. Everybody in this town is. We are committed to it. We have really good plans. We don't talk about what the plans are, but we have really good. So we're on top of it and we're making some infrastructure changes and all of that went very, very well. I think one of the things is because you don't really talk about security is I want to make sure everybody at home knows there are many, many people on top of this and we have excellent plans.
It's a really good point, Mr. Carr, because I had called upon us to do that with the select board last time.
Yeah.
And it was smart to follow up on that. We did do it.
Yeah.
We met last night, right?
Last night?
Yeah.
Last night we met, we did that. So the select board's been collaborative and everyone took the extra time to do that. And I think it's clear that everyone thinks that school safety is a priority and we're addressing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Carr.
And I'll just add, I came away from that meeting very encouraged with what I heard about our security capabilities. There's still, as with anything, room to grow, but that was it was a very helpful meeting. So we'll move on to school committee governance. There are no topics not reasonably anticipated by me. I don't believe we have any minutes for approval at this.
I'm about to deliver a bunch, so we're nearly there.
And then future agenda items, any thoughts on future agenda items for our May meeting based on this one? And you will still be there.
It's my last one.
It's your last one.
Oh,
So
Do we get both fireworks and confetti cannons for the last meeting?
that may be a fire hazard, but we can talk to our friends at the fire station.
I just need you guys to all cry.
So if you do have future agenda items for in the intervening time, please reach out to me. There are no reasons to move into executive session. I should open the floor for public comment.
Additional.
And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair McCollum, seconded by Ms. St. Ange. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you everyone for all your time.